The Halfway In. Written by Sean Guzman. Narrated by Samuel Myers. 1. Our story starts in a town familiar to some who know it. Salem, the twin sister city of Derleth, which is separated by a wide, cold river. But the day is not cold. At least, not the weather. The sunshine filters through verdant maple leaves upon a sad scene. A funeral. The outer edges of the stainless steel frame surrounding the grave glint painfully as the sun dances off its polished surface, sending a flare of light upon a golden picture frame of a young girl. Such a terrible waste of a life so young. The majority of the funeral goers have left by now, and the remaining bid farewell to a grieving mother before walking away. Tears divide layers of foundation and mascara, carving a line of naturally wrinkled flesh to her chin and spilling down into the lap of her black lace dress. She's not alone because someone has been waiting behind the tree, seeking a moment to speak with the mother privately. This, dear friends, is our heroine, Ryan. Well, she hasn't become a hero yet. Chronologically, yes, but to you, no. Come forth, Ryan. The teenage girl with messy black hair, dressed in sweatpants and a hoodie, hesitates momentarily before awkwardly stepping to the mother's side. She's never been very good with all the emotional stuff. Her feet scuff the grass as she takes each step. She would make a terrible thief. The girl holds a cylindrical glass jar with the single blue butterfly sitting upon a barren twig. Hanging from her arm is a small, stuffed rabbit, blue and mangy. "May I sit with you?" Ryan asks with a slight pause. The crying woman nods quietly as Ryan takes a seat beside her. The two sit silently for a while before Ryan lets her purpose be known. Beatris Bingo was her name, but she went by B. B as in bee, not B as in bear, or something like that. She saved my life, or more so, she taught me how to live, Ryan blurts out. The woman wipes a few tears from a mascara-stained handkerchief and turns to face the awkward teen. "You knew B?" the woman asks. Ryan nods. "It's a long story. I'm not sure if it's true. Well, it has to be true. At least most of it." Bee's mother stares blankly as Ryan stumbles through her lines. Ryan's hands begin to shake before the mother rests her own hands on Ryan's shoulders. "It's okay. Tell me your story about how you knew Bee. You can share as much or as little as you'd like me to know." "Okay, I'll start from the beginning." Ryan inhales deeply and then exhales. "My parents were so upset at me that night that I did it. I did something wrong again. So they yelled at me, and then they yelled at each other." 2. I woke up in a hospital, except I wasn't me. I mean, I was me, but there were two of me. And I was one looking at the other, Ryan continues. The hospital room is unusually dark. Regardless of the flow of light, every corner has a strange, pulsating darkness, the kind that seems to breathe. The shine on the hospital floor tiles is gone, as if the light is afraid to reflect off them. When Ryan opens her eyes, she finds herself sitting on the hard floor. A light across the room brings her eyes upward to see a surgeon operating on someone hastily. They're shouting things, but their voices are mumbled, like they're underwater. She sees them pull metallic paddles off the wall, rub them together, and zap the person in the operating room bed. Electricity slams into her body, causing her to wince her eyes in pain. Her head throbs with pins and needles for a moment. When she opens her eyes again, She's in another room. It's dark like the first, though much quieter. Her eyes are drawn to a light across the room shining downward on a hospital bed. In the bed, she sees herself like a mirror, but not a reflection, a copy. It's a perfect copy of her, seemingly asleep in the bed. There are two Ryans. Ryan examines her twin and sees a few dozen wires dangling from her arms. Each of those wires traces up to beeping machines, but they're not really beeping like they normally do. They're muffled, like the underwater voices from before. Ryan begins to sob gently in her hands. "Miss," an unmuffled voice calls to her. She wipes her face and turns to see a man standing in the doorway of the hospital room. He's dressed from head to toe in a navy blue uniform. The hat sitting high on his brow is embroidered across the brim in a gold cord. Above the cord is a pair of matching golden wings reaching far to the left and far to the right. Stretched tight across his face is an unnaturally permanent smile that makes the hair on Ryan's arm stand tall. "Miss, the train is waiting for you. Please step this way," the man says calmly. Train? Who are you? And why are you in my room?" Ryan responds. The man with the eerie smile irons his uniform out with his hands and dips his hat down in its proper position. "Why, I'm obviously the conductor." "I'm not interested in any train rides right now, thanks." The conductor bows his head and disappears into the darkness. Ryan glances at the empty space between the door frame where he just disappeared. It almost seems as if the darkness swallowed him whole. Her heart begins to pound in her chest as her eyes shoot across the void around her. She notices that it seems to be edging closer towards her. She leaps from her chair and crawls into the bed with the other her. But the darkness continues to slowly creep toward the light above them. What if I just lay back in my body? Isn't that how this works? If I lie in my body and wake up? She thinks to herself. She tries it, but ricochets out of the bed as if two of them were the same sides of two magnets. Ryan stumbles to her feet, crawls back into bed, and pulls the covers over her head. "Miss," the conductor calls out from outside the covers. Ryan peeks out from under the covers and finds the man standing in the doorway once more. "Please leave me alone." "Please do not fear the train. It is well lit and safe there, I promise," the conductor calls to her in a gentle voice. "Can you please lose the smile?" Ryan squeaks. "Would you prefer the frown, miss?" the conductor says as his face droops into a permanent scowl. Ryan looks out from the covers and shudders. "Ugh, just do the normal face, please." The conductor's face resets into a neutral expression of neither joy nor anger. "Thank you. You said there was a train?" "That is correct. The long black train." "Where's the train going?" "The next stop is the halfway inn, miss." "Halfway in? Halfway into what? Are there lights and people there?" "Halfway between this place and the next, and there are a great number of lights and people." "Okay," Ryan says as she slowly creeps out from under the covers, but she turns to face her twin. "Am I okay to leave her here?" "Is there somewhere you'd rather she be?" the conductor asks. This guy is a wise guy. I don't know if I like him. Ryan huffs before power walking up to the conductor. "All right, smarty pants, lead the way." The conductor raises a hand and snaps a finger. In an instant, candles ignite, leading down a skinny path toward the long black train. Steam erupts from the train's engine and the train roars to life. Subsequently, each cabin car is filled with flickering candlelight all the way down to the caboose, which is barely visible from where Ryan is standing. As soon as the cars are filled with light, The conductor steps to the side of the now lit pathway. "This way, miss," the conductor says as he escorts Ryan to the nearest cabin. "Watch your step as you enter, and take a seat anywhere you'd like." Ryan climbs well-painted metal stairs on the way into the cabin. Inside, she finds a well-lit and cozy passenger car. She smells popcorn and roses as her eyes trace lines of stained wood planks on the ceiling. Similarly, she runs her fingers across each seat as she passes, touching red velvet expertly stitched and stretched around thick cushions. Candle chandeliers glisten in her eyes as her fingers glide from soft to slick as she reaches lacquered wood of the seat frame. She closes her eyes briefly. There are no rough edges here. There are no hard feelings here. There's peace in the silence of this train. "Hey!" a voice breaks through the tranquility. Ryan looks to see a tiny girl popping her head out up from the rear of the cabin. Ryan is an only child, but she always enjoyed the company of younger children. "Hi there. Are you the only one here?" The girl leaps from her seat into the aisle to join Ryan, short pink hair bobbing with every galloping step. "Sure am. My name is Bea Bingo. That's B-E-A. It's short for Beatris, but I don't go by Bea like Beatrice. I go by Bee, like bumblebees. What's your name?" "My name is Ryan." "Ryan's a boy's name, but I like it. I think it suits you." Ryan blinks slowly, partially insulted, but greatly amused. Good gravy, this girl has no filter. I respect it. Ryan rebounds off her rudeness with a chaotic grin. "Thanks, I guess." The whistle blows and the train begins to chug along the tracks. Ryan eyes the young girl up and down. She's very peculiarly dressed in white and black striped leggings and sleeves under a green pleated dress. Yellow rain boots right up to her knees under the dress, and a ragged-looking blue stuffed animal is clutched under her arms. She also notices a pink string tied to Bee's arm, and like a balloon, it's tied to the other end. But the string goes straight to the ceiling and appears to go through the roof of the train. Ryan looks at her own right hand and notices a similar pink string. What on earth is this? "We should probably take our seats then, huh?" Ryan asks, disregarding the string as she tucks into the nearest seat and scoots towards the window. Bee sits down right beside her. Ryan points to the stuffed animal under her arm. "Who's your friend?" Bee unravels the animal and holds it up for Ryan to see. It vaguely resembles a fattened rabbit. "This is Lozenge." "Lozenge?" "Lozenge, yes." "You named your stuffed animal a cough drop?" "No, I named him Lozenge." Ryan nods approvingly. "Right. Lozenge it is." Awkward silence fills the cabin, and Ryan takes this opportunity to peer out the window. The long black train cuts right through the center of downtown Salem, buildings veering out of the way as if guided by the hand of God himself. "Ryan?" Bee asks. Ryan turns to face the young girl. "Yes, what's up?" "How'd you get here?" "You mean, how did I die?" "No, you're not dead, silly," Bee says, grabbing Ryan's string and giving it a tug. Ryan thinks back to before the hospital, and all the feelings come rushing back. "I made a mistake, and now I'm here." "Was it a mistake, though?" "Oh, that's okay. My mommy says mistakes aren't bad. They're just lessons we learn as we grow up." A weak smile creeps across Ryan's face. "I wish I had your enthusiasm." "How'd you get here, Bee?" Ryan asks. "I got really sick, but I feel so much better here. My body doesn't hurt anymore. I can breathe. This place is so nice, isn't it?" "Yeah, I suppose it is." Ryan says, looking back out the window. The train is split through the middle of the city and now chugs along the river's edge between the two towns. Without warning, the train veers off the path and nosedives into the water. Ryan grips the seat cushions with white knuckles, but Bee remains calm and just rests a hand on her new friend's shoulder. "It's okay. I trust the conductor. He's a good man," she says. "Right. The guy with the creepy smile." Ryan's heart is pounding in her chest as the water rushes past the windows, but it never enters the cabin. The train rumbles along the steel tracks as it dives deeper into the river, and after a few moments, Ryan settles back into her seat. Moments pass as the two sit quietly, only the train making its repetitious puffing and the grinding drone of the wheels rolling across the track. "Ladies and gentlemen of the train, we will be arriving in the halfway in station in approximately 5 minutes. The conductor's voice echoes through the cabins. Bee looks out the window briefly before running to the other side of the train. "Ryan, come look!" Ryan stands to meet her on the opposite side of the train, and her eyes widen. "It's beautiful," she whispers. Directly beneath the train is the somber, cavernous wasteland, but Ryan's eyes are drawn off the distance, where a jagged, icy blue mountain peak stands tall. It glows faintly from within and pulses like a heart, shining fiery red at the top of every pump and faintly pink at the bottom. Floating high above the summit of the mountain sits a chunk of earth, a city glowing brightly with all the colors of the neon rainbow. Orange, textured buildings jut out from the flat top of the floating land. Alongside the buildings are vibrant, neon blue and green trees bearing pastel yellow and pink bark. Bushes and shrubs of various shapes and sizes scatter across the landscape like pepper flakes of yellows and purples. The purest form of emerald green grass fills in the spaces between it all. At various heights surrounding the city are much smaller chunks of land, with similar foliage and luminescence, creating a pathway on both sides leading towards the capital. As the train draws closer, the glow of the city and the mountain illuminate their eyes so much that it's nearly impossible to see the wasteland surrounding them. "Look over there, Ryan!" Bee shouts and points to an unusual creature in the distance. Ryan's eyes shift from the city to where Bee is pointing to see a larva of some kind floating through the air. "Look at that worm! Or is it a snake?" The massive creature is suspended in the air with ropes tied to thousands of overgrown fireflies, blinking violently as either a sign of struggle or enthusiasm. The worm itself is engorged and stretched over tight ropes as the bugs above it strain from the weight. The belly of the worm is iridescent, flicking a different color with every flex of the rope. Along its edges are long bristles, or spines. I wonder if those are sharp. But its terrifying features are two thick mandibles in the front of its mouth for crushing something. "Do you think it's nice?" Bee asks. Ryan shrugs. "Maybe if it turns into a butterfly or something. Butterflies are always nice." "Yeah, you're probably right." Ryan turns and looks towards the base of the mountain, seeing a few dozen tortoises pushing the ground up with their heads. Their shells are see-through. Inside, they look like giant nuclei bouncing protons and neutrons around like a violent game of electric tennis. Ryan taps on Bee's shoulder and points to the strange terrapin. "Check that out." "Wow, I wonder if we can get down there and take a look at them. They look so big, too," Bee replies. Ryan looks below the train and gets vertigo. "Bee, that's a long way down. Several 100 feet at least." Bee runs to the front of the cabin and yells to the conductor. "Hey, Mr. Conductor, what happens if you fall off the edge of the city?" The conductor's head turns to look out the back glass of the engine compartment. He blinks, and a pirate patch appears over his left eye as his voice echoes through the cabins once more. "Arrgh! If ye walk the plank, ye die!" Bee imitates the conductor by closing one of her own eyes. Ryan scoffs. But aren't we already kind of dead? In an instant, the conductor shifts back to normal, and his voice comes over the intercom. You're more than welcome to give it a shot and find out yourself, miss. Beatris, benevolent child. Mid-morning sunshine sprinkles through the 9 glass panels that make up Bee's bedroom window. She's her mother's only child with her father, a man whom Bee had never met. He died before she was born. The downstairs doorbell startles Bee awake. Not long after, she hears her mother yelling and the sound of heavy footsteps running up the stairs. No, kids, she's not feeling well. Her mother's muffled speech is cut off through the floor below her bed. The pitter-patter of footsteps reaches the second floor and sprints towards her bedroom. 2 enthusiastic youths burst through the bedroom door shouting. The 2 youths are close to Bee's age. The boy is about 7 years old, and the girl is roughly 9. Bee, you should have seen us, shouts the girl with chestnut hair and peculiar gray eyes. Yes, she was like, hey, and I was like, bam, pow, the blonde-haired boy adds, throwing his fists in the air with every iteration of onomatopoeia. The skin around the boy's right eye is puffy and discolored with purples and blues, but the smile on his face is one of pure satisfaction. Charlie, Toby, slow down, Bee responds hoarsely as a coughing fit rips through her entire body. The 2 visitors' smiles turn into frowns as the convulsions of wet coughing paralyze Bee briefly. The stuffed blue rabbit in Bee's arms falls to the floor. The girl is first to react, sitting Bee up so she could clear the phlegm from her lungs. I'm sorry, Bee. Your mom said you weren't feeling well. We can come back tomorrow if you want. But there wouldn't be a tomorrow. At least not for Bee. And Bee knew this. The boy grabs the rabbit and hands it back to Bee as a third set of footsteps starts up the stairs. Bee's mother. No. Lock the door and tell me a story, please. It would make me feel better, Bee replies. The blonde-haired boy, Tobias, runs and locks the door quickly as the footsteps land on the second floor. The girl immediately begins telling a story in a rush. You would have been so proud of us. Chad and his friends were bullying one of the kids at lunch, sticking his finger in his food and licking it like the ape that he is. Right. Charlie was the first one up. She immediately went over and confronted him, telling him to leave the kid alone. The boy calls from the door, bracing his body against it like some sort of bulwark holding the enemy back. Chad grabbed a hold of my shirt and started threatening me when Toby came flying out of nowhere and hit him square in the nose. Oh, and you should have seen it. I jumped off the chair and came flying at him with the big haymaker. Bee giggles just as her mom starts slamming on the door. Open this door, Tobias. I know you're blocking it. Chad and his group beat the tar out of Toby, but it gave me enough time to get his victim out of the way of harm, Charlie says triumphantly. Another coughing spell ripples through Bee's frail body. Her pale skin is almost see-through now. Tobias, open this door right now. Listen to her cough. She's very sick. Bee nods to Tobias, who unlocks the door for her mother. That makes me so happy that you're taking care of them. Keep taking care of them when I'm gone, Bee says weakly. Her mom busts in. Out at once, both of you. Charlie and Tobias are hurried out of the room by Bee's mother. Wait, when you're gone? Charlie shouts. Tobias's voice gets crackly. What does she mean by that? Where's she going? Helplessly, the 2 kids wave goodbye as Bee calls out to them as loudly as her little voice can go. I'll miss you. 3. The train brakes lock up tight, causing steel wheels to drag across the rails with painful screech as the train settles in the train station in the center of town. Both girls eagerly exit the car to see the city up close. Ryan can't think of a time in her life when sights brought her so much excitement, except perhaps the town fair a few years ago. Those were simpler times. Kinder times. The conductor steps down from the steam engine and joins the girls on the cobbled stones of the station. All around the station are zigzag-patterned brass stanchions with ivory-colored cashmere ropes latched against the brims of the poles. They were initially designed to control traffic flow to and from the train, but it's essentially a ghost town where they currently stand. Just outside the station leading into the town, a waterfall flows upward from a large marble fountain and crashes into the night sky above them. Ryan's eyes dart from the base of the fountain to the sky, which resembles the choppy waters of the river that the train drove into between Derleth and Salem. She notices tiny koi fish swimming and leaping down the waterfall, as if spawning salmon fighting against the rushing currents. How peculiar. Ryan's eyes settle back on the conductor. Well, what's next? This is known as the halfway inn. You may stay here in this place as long as you want, or get back on the train and move on to the next location. The after, the conductor says. The after? B asks. The conductor kneels to B's level. Yes, the after. The after is the judgment. Oh, I nearly forgot to mention that there is a third option. Which is? Ryan asked impatiently. You saw the giant bobbit worm on the way in, I take it. Ryan and B both nod. Well, when they get good and full, they make a cocoon and turn into a beautiful butterfly. B nudges Ryan's shoulder hard and whispers, See? So long as your body hasn't expired, the conductor says, grabbing the pink strings tied to the wrists of both girls. You can stay. You can still return to it. You can still return to it by riding one of those butterflies home. So we both can go home? Ryan asks. Well, no, not both of you. One of you may go home. One person per butterfly, the conductor replies. But how do we get one of those butterflies, sir? B asks. You have to do something for me first. Of course, there's always a catch. The conductor's countenance shifts into a stern look, and his cap shifts into the shape of a cowboy hat. B lets out a giggle. Someone round these parts has been stirring up trouble. He's a real bad dude by the name of Vicioso, you see. This scoundrel and his scissor men have been terrorizing the Wild West and killing off all the butterflies. So you want us to stop this Vicar Vicioso? Ryan says. The conductor returns to normal, including his permanent smile. Yes, miss. And if you'd like to get back home, you'll have to stop him first. Then you or Miss Bingo can take the butterfly home. Ryan bites the inside of her cheek and stares at her feet. Why would I want to go home? I can't wait to go home, B exclaims. Where is this Vicar Vicioso guy, conductor? The conductor points a finger at the ground at his feet. They say he sits at the bottom of the mountain below the halfway inn. Well, how do I get down there? Well, the fastest way is to jump. But you can visit the halfway inn and look for a fellow by the name of the Writer. He should be able to help you. You can find the inn by following the cobblestone path from the train station. At the fork, take a left and then another left. At the fork, take 2 lefts. Got it. Come on, Ryan. Let's go see the Writer, B states as she starts to head down the path toward the fork. Ryan hesitates. I don't think I'm going to go, B. But best of luck to you. It was nice meeting you. B turns and frowns. My mom says there's no such thing as luck. Ryan continues to stare at her feet, unflinching. Bee sees that Ryan is making no effort to join her, so she shrugs and starts to walk off with Lozenge, the stuffed rabbit. Is the after like this place? Ryan asks. Depends, the conductor answers. Ryan's face turns red. Why do you treat me differently from how you treat Bee? You're asking me why I return your indifference with indifference and return Bee's enthusiasm with enthusiasm. I think the better question is, why do you remain so indifferent when you've been given another chance at life? Who said I wanted another chance? Ryan responds defiantly. Fate? Or excuse me, I believe you called it luck, has deemed you worthy at least this once. Suddenly, there's a scream. Ryan turns to see Bee surrounded by men, shrouded in black. I've got to help her. Ryan, wayward teen. A window-mounted air conditioning unit blasts out frigid air as Ryan sits in a hard-backed chair facing the principal's desk. Angry voices outside the closed door reverberate off painted concrete walls. Ryan gazes at the chips in the paint, wishing she could get a fingernail into the bubbled latex and pull a bit away. Get them to admit it in writing. Call the principal and use them to pressure them if you have to. The principal's shouting filters through the windowed door. The door opens and the principal enters, slamming it behind him. The slam startles Ryan, but she remains quiet and keeps facing forward as her heart patters violently in her chest. The heavy-set principal wipes back his crazed hair and walks over calmly to his chair to sit down behind the desk. The chair creaks under his weight as he plops down into it. He pulls out some paper and a pen from the drawer and slides them across the desk to Ryan. Your friend, the loud one, told us everything. The three of you are now facing expulsion from the school, and all I want is the truth. If you tell the truth, perhaps we'll go easy on you. If not, we'll be forced to press charges. The man says. I told you already, neither of us had anything to do with it. Ryan responds defiantly. The principal slams both fists into the desk. Stop playing games with me! Ryan's countenance is one of angsty teen apathy, but inside, she's an emotional train wreck. Her father and the principal have the same explosive tempers. In fact, they share a lot in common. They both play golf together nearly every Sunday. The principal reaches for the phone and starts dialing a number. Ryan instantly pales. Wait! That's when the tears start falling. She hates being so emotional. But sometimes her resistance to falling apart bests her ability to maintain a hard exterior. Please don't call him. What have the others told you? Ryan pleads. The principal shakes his head and points to the paper on the desk. Tell the truth. Ryan thinks of her friends. No one will believe them when they say they didn't do it. They didn't do it. This time. But adults don't care if they have the truth. They need someone to blame, and without a scapegoat, all three will go down when they call the cops. Ryan's mind rushes every possible outcome, and it's a lose-lose in nearly every case. Ryan begins to scribble something on the paper. The principal smirks as he looks on. He won. He'll have his truth. Ryan slides the paper over to him, eyes wet with fear. Ryan admittedly went a little too far, but it had to be believable. The principal would not accept anything less. The paper reads, I, Ryan W., am the one who vandalized the school property. I acted alone. My friends are completely innocent. Given the chance, I would do it all again. I hate this school and everything it stands for. As the principal reads the note, his smirk vanishes. "You're done for." Ryan forces a pained smile on her own face to sell the lie. This is only going to end one way for her. More yelling, more crying, more pain. "I know." 4. The men surround her, grabbing onto Bee's clothes and begin pulling her in opposing directions like starved wolves upon their prey. Their presumed leader stands among them with a tall pair of stainless steel scissors. The faceless men tugging at her are clothed from head to toe in flowing black fabric, layered thick upon their bodies. They resemble mummified yetis, swaddled with midnight, making no sound as they grasp at Bee. Ryan's adrenaline kicks in and she charges in to save Bee, dropping a shoulder just before crashing into the group. The dark men are launched into the air as she collides with them. Shrouded men scatter in each direction with the forceful sound of pillows crashing together. Ryan gets a hold of Bee and pulls her safely as the men with scissors lunge toward them. Ryan glares back at the conductor. "Help us!" The conductor snaps his finger and then gives a cold shrug. He stares back with empty eyes and a permanent smile. "Please help us, conductor!" Bee cries out as the scissors snap together in rapid succession, inches from her face. The conductor snaps his fingers once more, and Lozenge grows tall and wide, large enough to tower over the men who have now climbed to their feet. The conductor exhales one long breath, and life fills the immense stuffed rabbit. Lozenge immediately begins pummeling the men with stuffed hammer-handed fists. The fists crash into the men like heavy bowling balls. As the stuffed animal engages in intense combat, Bee and Ryan look on in awe. They regain their composure and begin pressuring the creature, surrounding him as the scissor man attempts to cut him with fierce persistence. The point of the scissors dig into the fabric around Lozenge's stomach and slices open, revealing white stuffing. Lozenge looks down at the fluff protruding from his tummy and becomes frantic, swinging his arms like a feral animal. The attackers get flung to and fro, sending some off the edge of the train platform and into the darkness below. The two remaining men attempt to restrain Lozenge by pulling his arms down at his sides. The men with the scissors sprint towards him with the shears close like a makeshift spear. The stuffed rabbit lets out a roar and claps his hands together, smashing the two men at his side like orchestral cymbals. As they fall limp, Lozenge lifts both men above his head and throws them at the scissor-wielding man. The three clang together like a gong and fall to the floor before turning into a pile of dust, leaving nothing but the pair of enlarged scissors. "No run with scissor," the beast responds in a deep, emotionless grumble before returning to Bee. Bee takes a hair bob and attempts to weave Lozenge's wounds shut. It doesn't hurt him, but he needs all the stuffing he can get. The hair bob stitch holds back the fluffing for now, but it swells under the makeshift repair. Ryan walks over and grabs the pair of scissors. They're long and sharp, nearly as long as she is tall, but this could come in handy. Ryan throws them over her shoulder. Their group makes its way back to the conductor, and Ryan is first to speak up. "Why didn't you help me when I asked you?" "You didn't ask nicely," the conductor retorts. Ryan's cheeks swell like she's about to blow her top when Bee interjects. "Mr. Conductor, were those scissor men you mentioned before?" "Why, yes, of course, miss. Those are Vicar Vicioso's dark, mysterious, and faceless scissormen. They're after your string," the conductor says, grabbing the pink string tied around Bee's wrist. "Oh, then it's a good thing you were there to rescue me, Ryan. I would have been a goner without you." Red-hot anger turns to a blush on Ryan's face, immediately pacifying her. A thin-lipped smile curls on her cheeks. "It feels good to be needed." "Ryan?" Bee asks. Ryan looks to Bee and sees only heavily dilated and glossy puppy dog eyes begging. Ryan, please stay with us and help us defeat Vicar Vicioso and his men so I can return home to my mom. Will you stay, please? Am I going to do this? This place will eat this poor girl alive if I don't help. Ryan looks back at the conductor, the long black train, and then at Bee and Lozenge. Death can wait. Okay, kiddo, let's go find the rider. The group begins to walk away from the conductor when Bee shouts, Wait, we need to say thank you to the conductor first. Ryan watches as Bee runs off to the conductor. They exchange a few words she can't hear before Bee runs back over to join them. You're not going to say goodbye to him, Ryan? Bee asks. Ryan raises an unenthusiastic hand to bid farewell. He returns the wave from a distance. The three of them, Bee, Ryan, and the rabbit, Lozenge, head back down the path as explained by the conductor and reach the fork. Here, they see that the city splits into two distinct paths. On the left, buildings tower high into the sky, each adorned with bright flashing signs that draw in wandering eyes. The streets themselves are full of blowing trash and the low roar of pedestrian traffic moving about. To the right, there was a much smaller part of the town, full of mundane, though still fluorescent, buildings. The left side is much brighter and full of life, while the right side maintains a more homely, quiet feel. They take a left as directed and head toward the noisy part of the city. Ryan looks over at Bee and sees her eyes shining with wonder. Bee, have you ever been to the city before? Ryan asks as they trudge along the path. Not one this big and loud. It's so pretty here. Loud. Lozenge's voice thunders over the sounds of the streets. Their group continues until they reach the first left. They peer down it and find the crummy alleyway off the beaten path. Wet gunk fills the passage and makes them hesitant to press forward. But at the end of the path, they see another building, shining brightly in the distance. Bold letters across the front of the sign read, The Halfway Inn. Passing through the alleyway, the group arrives at the wooden steps of the inn. Ragtime piano and murmuring rattle through the frosted glass windows. Just outside the door sits a hand-painted sign of a pair of scissors with a thick red X painted over it. Bee and Lozenge both look at Ryan. What? Ryan responds. No scissor, Lozenge rumbles. Ryan completely forgot she'd picked it up from the lead scissor man. She pulls the clippers from her back and stabs them into the wooden patio floor of the inn. Okay, ready? Bee and Ryan enter through the front doors of the Halfway Inn to find a busy saloon full of patrons. Hands with no bodies slam methodically across piano keys in the corner, playing the song they heard through the windows. Ryan half expected the patrons to be more dead-looking, but they are mostly just normal-looking people. Moments later, Lozenge ducks through the doorway with a loud groan that causes everyone to stop and look at the hulking creature. Even the music stops, just like in the classic cartoons. Hi, my name is Bee, short for Beatris. B-E-A. But don't call me Bea. Just Bee, like a bumblebee. Everyone ignores Bee and goes back to chattering amongst themselves. Music kicks back, playing louder than before. How rude, Bee whispers to herself. Ryan walks out the front door of the inn and retrieves the scissors. She enters the building again, this time with scissors in hand, and slams them through the first table she comes across. Wooden splinters and playing cards fly through the air as patrons at the table fall back in their chairs. The beverages spill all over them and the floor, causing quite the scene. The girl is talking! You better listen! Ryan shouts. Their crowd erupts into chaos as angry taverners stand to their feet and start shouting at Ryan. Many point their fingers at the pair of scissors, while others yell explicitives that will not be repeated. Someone throws a cup at Ryan. She ducks. The cup hits Lozenge, and then the brawl starts. Men at the bar start throwing stools and chairs at each other as the piano changes tune to a much more frantic song. Ryan grabs the first guy she sees and gives him a headbutt to the face, crumbling him to the ground. His friend jumps in and swings at Ryan with the heavy fist. Lozenge catches it in the air, picks the man up by his fist, and tosses him across the room. Glass cups shatter across the floors and walls as men crash into each other. Ryan goes to jump on the table to elbow drop a fallen patron when Lozenge grabs her and pulls her to safety. B hides behind Lozenge, but Ryan stands defiantly, swinging a bar stool and seeking the opportunity to blow off some steam. Suddenly, someone near the back shouts, "Scissormen!" Ryan and B turn to see a pack of scissormen standing in the doorway behind them. Each man of this new group carries scissors of different shapes and sizes. The chaos around them sizzles down to silence as the scissormen step into the room, crunching broken glass and wood under their feet, looking around at all the partygoers. "They haven't seen us yet," B whispers to Ryan. Ryan looks down at the scissors she slammed through the table, then looks back up to see the scissormen staring in her direction. They all point in her direction as she dives for the scissors. They lunge forward to stand against her. "Wait, lass!" An unfamiliar British voice calls as the hand halts Ryan's advance. The scissormen stop in their tracks as the new figure emerges from behind Ryan. A man steps forth wearing medieval knight's armor and garb. His dull gray chainmail rattles as he steps forward. Shoulder-length red hair flows around the middle-aged face. Shoulder-length red hair flows around the middle-aged face, touches the top of his chainmail, and a matching beard which flows down his chest. Scars chisel into his lips and a misshapen right ear. On his chest, and draped down to his thighs, is a surcoat. Though originally yellow in color, age has made it more of a dirty ochre. Embroidered across his breast in red, bold and bright, stands a lion wearing a crown upon its head. A short sword is at his waist, and in his left hand a wooden shaft reaches the ground, but also high above his head with a tiny piece of steel at the end. "Villainous anti-hero standing there before me. If it's the girl you seek, then my sword is for thee. But leave this place if you so choose. If not, I fear your life you'll lose," the knight says with poetic cadence. The scissormen stand dumbfounded for a moment before they begin rushing forward again. The knight readies the spear across his body, preparing to meet them head on. Ryan notices something odd about the knight's lance. It's barely sharpened. Instead of a sharp point, the steel spearhead is more like a dull teardrop, nearly as poetic and romantic as his intro speech. The nearest scissorman raises his weapon above his head like a warhammer, seeking to crash it down on the knight's bare head. The knight merely spins the spear shaft in his hands and brings up the butt end to smash him in the chin, forcibly sending him into the crowd. The next two come around the sides, seeking to slice at him with their weapons. The knight shifts the shaft vertically and deflects both attacks. Then, leaping into the air, he spins the spear above his head before smacking the right attacker with the spearhead and the other with the butt end, sending them crashing in opposing directions. The final two scissormen rush forward, blindly swinging. The knight ducks under their attacks and swipes their feet from under them. They tumble to the ground before the knight delivers a final blow to both, cracking the spear in two. Just like the scissormen at the train station, these two crumble into dust, leaving the knight standing valiantly among the piles of blackened ash and a shattered spear shaft. "Who are you, mister?" B asks, in awe of the knight's fighting prowess. "Sir Leslie Cumberland, also known as the Writer in some circles," the knight says with a bow. "Leslie is a girl's name," B blurts out rudely. "Actually, lass, it's an androgynous name." I take no offense to your proclivities. You're the one who previously announced herself as B, correct? That's correct, mister. But who was the tall blue fellow and the rowdy girl? That's Ryan, and the big guy's my rabbit named Lozenge, B states matter-of-factly. Excuse me, but you've named your rabbit Cough Drop? Leslie asked. B stomps her feet and raises a fist. No, I named him Lozenge. What's with you people? Leslie chuckles. Huh, very well, young lady. Leslie, the conductor said to seek you out about stopping the car, Ryan begins to say. Leslie immediately raises a hand and shushes her. Not out here, child. Please, follow me with haste. Leslie leads the group through well-lit corridors, passing several open doors. In one, Ryan notices several people with sheets on their heads. What's that about? Ryan asks as she stops at the door. Haunters, Leslie answers plainly. Haunters? B asks. You've heard of ghosts, right? They're just normal folks. They're just normal folks that are bored. One of the ghosts lifts the sheet off his head. We're just having a little bit of fun, old man. Another voice calls from under the sheet. Yeah, you should have some fun every now and then instead of just being a stuffy old bat. Leslie starts walking away, but Ryan hears him mumble under his breath. Can't teach an old dog new tricks. The group keeps moving until they reach the back room of the inn. B, I respectfully ask you to have your lozenge stand guard at the door while we discuss things privately. Why can't Lozenge come inside with us? B questions. Well, he can, dear. But due to the nature of things being discussed here, we'll need to make sure prying ghoul ears do not hear. Secret squirrel things, I believe your people call them in your time. Your beloved rabbit companion will provide security for us while we discuss those things. B nods to Lozenge. Okay, he groans as he stands guard at the door. The others file into the room and shuts the door behind them. Inside the room appears to be Leslie's quarters. A messy wooden bed and a banded chest sit in one corner, while a table and a flipped chair sit beside the fireplace. Sitting on top of the table are books and scattered papers. As Leslie goes to the fireplace and gets started, Ryan creeps over to the table and begins carefully skimming through the loose papers. It's all handwritten notes about American and European poets and writers as far back as the 7th century. She examines the spines of the book and finds collections of classic works by authors she recognizes like Homer, Shakespeare, Flemingway, Tolkien, and even Stefano Kinglero. A few French poets and Russian novelists are also scattered in the pile. Leslie, when did you die? Ryan asks. 'Twas a long time ago, lass. Why? Most of those books are modern prints. There's no way you brought these with you when you died, right? She asks. You are correct in denouncing that you cannot take anything with you when you die. Luckily for us, for the sake of modesty, they allow us to keep our clothes on this side of the after. Everything else, however, stays in the land of the living. Then how did you get all these books if you can't bring them with you? There's a way to get things you want on this side of the grave, my dear. But more on that later. We have pressing issues to discuss, Leslie says as the fire roars to life in front of him. Please take a seat. Ryan grabs the flipped chair and places it next to the chest where B sits. Leslie steps away from the fire and in front of the girls. Vicar Vicioso. Vicar Vicioso, B echoes. A muffled voice from a very large stuffed rabbit echoes in the hallway. Vicar Vicioso. Leslie turns to shush the creature outside before turning back to the girls. You seek to overthrow him, yes? Yes, Will you help us? B responds. For 20 years I've been fighting Vicioso, it seems, Leslie answers, pacing back and forth. Okay, Ryan grumbles with raised eyebrows. Leslie locks eyes with Ryan and then looks back at B. Is her disposition always that kind of a moody brat? B grins and gives a thumbs up. Yep, but we're working on it. Please continue. As I was saying, Vicar Vicioso showed up 20-something years ago and has been nothing but trouble for the entirety of the pre-afterlife since he got here. We've developed a team of those who would stand up against Vicioso's scissormen and fight them every chance we get. But alas, our numbers are quite few. The common folk of this realm are too fearful of them to get more help. Why are they afraid of them? I only saw B and I with the pink strings in there. That pink string is only your connection with your unexpired body in the realm of the living. If you die here in the halfway inn and have no pink string, you immediately go to the after. The after doesn't sound so bad, Ryan blurts out. The bad guys go to the bad place and the good guys go to the good place, right? It's a tad bit more complicated than that, but you're almost on the right track, Leslie answers. Ryan yawns loudly. Leslie sighs. Fine, I will press forward to my point. Few will fight, so little gets done, and Vicar Vicioso continues to terrorize the halfway inn, while others growing tremendously in power with each passing moment. I will aid you with your quest if you help me with mine first. Here we go again. That's the answer that every person gives us down here, and it's starting to drive me nuts. Ryan's voice rambles on as the others continue the conversation without her. Tell us what you'll want us to do, Leslie, B urges. There's a man named Sebastian, incarcerated inside Vicioso's stockade at the base of the halfway inn. We break in there, and we get him out. Then I will take you to meet Valentina and her men. She will be able to help you fight against Vicar Vicioso. Ryan rejoins the conversation. Why do you need this Sebastian so much? Well, he is my very dear friend and brother of the sword. But also, he likes to blow things up most spectacularly. How will we get him out of jail? B asks. I've devised a scheme worthy of execution, he answers with a grin. 5. Leslie leads the group toward the opening of the tunnel leading underground. The symmetrical edges appear to have been carved by hand. Ryan runs her hands through the cut grooves on both sides. Vertical grooves are cut deeply on the roof and sides, but not the bottom. Leslie? Ryan asks. Yes. Did the scissormen cut these tunnels? Not at all. Did you see the annelid when you rode the locomotive in? B's face wrinkles in confusion. The what? The worms. Oh yes, I saw them, B exclaims. Those brilliant creatures dug these holes. The scissormen just used them to go to and from the jail they've assembled down here. Ryan shivers thinking of bugs that size. You don't like bugs, Ryan? B asks. I don't mind the small ones, but those giant man-eating mandibles give me the creeps. Rightfully so. However, they do not usually enjoy the taste of human flesh. Usually? Great. Speaking of dying a horrible worm-infested death, how did you die, Leslie? You're dressed like a knight. Did you die in battle? Ryan asks. Leslie stops for a moment. No. Is your death a sensitive subject? Surely it's been several hundred years by now. Leslie sighs. I wanted to be a writer, but my father wouldn't allow it. He said I needed a more stable and honest career, like farming or blacksmithing. But I'm stubborn as a mule. Ryan raises her hands. Whoop! Preach it, brother. Leslie looks at her in slight disgust. I became a soldier for the king. Ooh! And that's how you got all the knight armor and stuff? Bee remarks. No. Bee's eyebrows raise. No? No? You stole it? Ryan asks. Kind of. Look, can we press forward with the mission and discuss this at a later time? Bee and Ryan look at each other with puzzled expressions. Leslie continues down the dark tunnel as the girls and Lozenge follow behind him. So why don't we have to call you Sir Leslie Cumberland of Wales? Ryan mocks. You've never once called me that, Leslie retorts. Well, I'm not going to start either. And I do not hail from Wales. I'm from England. High sass levels spew from Ryan's mouth without hesitation. Wales, England, same. Leslie stops dead in his tracks. They are not the same. One is Wales and one is England. They're literally touching. Might as well be the same. Words matter. If an apple and an orange are touching, does that make them the same fruit? It does if they both talk like they got stuff stuck in their mouth. I am an educated man, Ryan, and I will not be attacked by an ad hominem. I'm merely taking the mickey out of you, Leslie. Loosen up a bit. I'll leave you alone if you just tell us where the night thing is all about, Ryan corrects. Leslie growls a bit to himself before answering. Fine. I served under the king, but I was incapacitated during my early training and never got a chance to go on and fight. During the 100 Years' War, a knight was injured not far from my father's farm and sought aid from my family. My mother attempted to nurse him back to health, but he succumbed to his injuries. Come to find out, he was carrying the Black Death with him. I got the brilliant idea to put his armor on and go fight for the king like I wanted. But I, too, got the plague. I died before I even made it to the battlefield. In fact, my whole family died because of that plague. But they didn't stay here with me in the halfway inn. They were content enough to move on. Ryan immediately feels sick to her stomach. I'm sorry, Leslie. I didn't mean to cut you so deeply with my words. It's okay, you are forgiven. But words do matter. I am not worthy of this heraldry as you alluded to. I am a dishonorable thief. Perhaps this is why I've not moved on to the after all these years. They sit in the tunnel quietly for a moment before Leslie starts walking again. After another 15 minutes of walking, they arrive in an open area deep underground. There in the center lies a big concrete building spanning several football fields wide and as tall as the tallest tree in Salem. On each corner of the building, round towers give a castle-like appearance. On top of the towers are fireflies like the ones that carry the bobbit worms, chained and caged, as scissormen use their butt lights like an organic spotlight gazing down into the prison yard. On the outside of the prison, dozens of scissormen patrol in groups of 5, coming in and out of the tunnel surrounding this chamber. What's the plan? Ryan asks. This! Leslie says as he sprints out into the open, screaming. Oh no! Run away! A foul and cruel and bad-tempered killer rabbit is out to get me! Help! Bee and Ryan look at each other with bewilderment. He betrayed us, Ryan shouts. Why would he have saved us before? I think he wants us to follow suit. Bee takes off running and screaming after Leslie with Lozenge not far behind. This is madness, Ryan mumbles to herself before she runs after the other 3. Leslie, aesthetic writer. Such a beautiful day for a ride on a stolen horse and armor, Leslie says with a smile as the horse gallops across the French plains. The horse rips through the French countryside over emerald green pastures full of cattle and golden fields of wheat. Leslie mumbles under his breath. Perhaps Father will be proud of me if I return as a decorated war veteran. Surely they want to execute a valiant crusader of his prior villainies. A cough squeezes Leslie's body, burning his lungs with every exhalation of diseased air. Wheezing trumpets from his mouth with every cough. His lymph nodes have nearly swollen his mouth shut. The dreaded Black Death, the bubonic plague, has been tearing through all of Europe. That blasted knight had the plague, and he brought it to my parents' house, he says through the chainmail helmet. His mind starts to wander. I can survive it though, right? Some people certainly survive. Distracted by his thoughts, his grip on the reins loosened just as the horse hits a divot in the road. The horse tumbles, sending Leslie toppling head over heels with a loud crash. The horse is the first to stand to its feet and jet off in the opposite direction, leaving Leslie in the mud with the sun shining down on him. The mud seeps into the armor and fills the spaces between his skin and steel. It feels fantastic on favored flesh, Leslie thinks to himself. Ah, such a life of a poet to die in the mud of a French road on the way to war. I suppose dying by the sword is beneath me after all. He painfully sheds the helmet. Perhaps I broke my neck in the fall. Perhaps I should fall on my own sword to make it look more honorable. He sheds his chainmail gloves and cracks open the shell of his chest plate to reach inside for his quill and ink. He coughs forcefully once more, coating his hand with scarlet. Ah, yes, this is certainly where we go to meet the Lord. I should make haste with my final poem. In red, on the breastplate of stolen armor, Leslie writes, I desired honor and discourse of a knight's parley, but the gallows of a thief are all that is waiting for me. To die in the mud, with the plague in my lungs, the sorrow in my heart to victory bells left unrung. And then Leslie lies there in the mud, thinking of a second verse as the warm summer wind laps at his pale flesh. The flies have already started to gather, tickling his nose with little tiny feet. The sky directly above him is baby blue with fluffy clouds scattered about. He laughs to himself in between labored breathing and painful coughing. Perhaps one more verse is good enough. Leslie tries to move, but his entire body is shocked with pain. Okay, one verse it is. And he falls asleep there under the French sky, among waving plains of grass and wheat. 6. Well, they threw us in the prison and took our weapons. Are you out of your mind? Why would you think this was a good plan? Ryan's voice is frantic. Scissorman begins shuffling toward the commotion. Leslie raises his finger to his mouth to silence the panicked teen and waves the group through the crowd to hide. Without the screaming, the prison was mostly silent, aside from the occasional coughing or shuffling of bodies. The prison yard is full of denizens of the halfway inn. Its dirty floors, carved from rock and earth, make digging out nearly impossible. The prison's walls are tall, and countless scissorman guards line the inner workings of the walls. The citizens of the halfway inn have no reason to eat or sleep, as they are nearly all dead already. As such, there is no need for beds or chow halls, so the entire prison is proposed for merely sitting and waiting for an undetermined amount of time. As Leslie leads the group, they face hundreds of faces contorted with anguish and sadness. This place is awful, Leslie, B whispers. Yes, indeed, as a prison should be. There is a place of sorrow and lamentation. But my friends should be here somewhere, Leslie whispers back. Leslie leads the group to the far outer wall opposite where they were thrown in. A variety of carvings are etched in the walls like graffiti. Leslie removes the leather glove from his hand and runs his fingers through the grooves. He follows one down toward the ground and finds a marked rock. Leslie kneels to lift the rock, and there's a word carved in the bottom of it. Kaboom. Of course, that's the code word, Leslie mumbles. What's with the rock? Ryan questions quietly. You've noticed that the guards don't allow much conversation on this side of the wall. Sebastian lets me know that he'd leave clues behind for me to find where we got here. So this is your plan after all? Yes, we had to make a delivery to Sebastian. When things start going wild, you stay close to me. Leslie walks over to the prisoners nearest to the rock and whispers something to them. As soon as they receive the command, they begin walking clockwise around the wall's perimeter, whispering to others. The word is whispered inward toward the center as the entire population follows suit. Within moments, everyone in the prison yard is walking in a circle mumbling, Kaboom. Okay, stick to me like horse glue, Leslie whispers to them as he begins forcing his way toward the center of the prison yard. The prisoners around them chanting louder and moving faster as they move. Scissormen on the walls start to scatter, sending their men to quell the uprising. The prisoners break out into a clockwise as the scissormen bust into the yard. Lights on the wall shine in the center as the group emerges from the circle pit. In the center of the enclosure is a stocky, mustachioed man in the 18th century garb. A wool, royal blue overcoat hugs tightly to a thick trunk and arms. Scarlet contrasts the blue along the inner edges of the coat and outer cuffs of the sleeve and continues down the trousers into dirty, off-white gaiters. Upon his head sits a black, three-pointed hat tastefully embroidered along the top edges. Then, of course, that thick, blonde mustache with curled edges sits above a crooked smile as he lays eyes on Leslie. Kaboom? The mustache man asked gleefully. Yes, my friend, kaboom! Leslie says as the two lock into a hug. Leslie squeezes the air from the stocky man as he lifts his body off the ground with a joyful laugh. The midget is Sebastian? Ryan interrupts. Leslie lets the small man down and turns to the group. He is not a midget. He is a dwarf. Sebastian, this is Ryan. Same. Ryan mumbles. Words matter, Bee shouts, nudging her arm. Pleasure to make your acquaintance, Mr. Sebastian. My name is Bee. Bee like the bumblebee. Not Bee, like Beatris. My name is Beatris, but I go by Bee. Bee extends a hand to shake, and Sebastian takes her hand and plants a kiss on it. Kaboom! Bee takes her hand back and shakes the kiss off. The chanting gets louder as the scissormen push through the stampeding prisoners. We better get to business, Sebastian, Leslie says as he pulls a package out of his heraldry and passes it to him. Kaboom! Sebastian says as he kneels to the ground and begins fiddling with the package. Why does he keep saying kaboom? Ryan asks. I'm not entirely sure. That is the only word I've ever heard him say, Leslie responds. The scissormen are nearly to the center of the prison yard. Fascinating. Does the plan involve this kaboom? Or are we just waiting for the scissormen to get us? Ryan blurts out. Sebastian stands up proudly with a nod. Kaboom! In his hands is an odd ball of trash with wires coming out of it. He takes off running through the crowd and Leslie follows him. The scissormen bust through the crowd with their scissors glinting in the firefly butt light. Run! Lozenge growls as he picks up both girls and begins plowing through the crowd like a bulldozer. Prisoners fly through the sky in every direction as the oversized rabbit carves a path through their mosh pit. But for every prisoner launched, 3 more take their place as the stampede continues to spin. Lozenge reaches the outer edge of the people tornado just as Sebastian plants the bomb against the bottom of the wall. Hit deck!" Leslie screams. "Kaboom!" Sebastian yells as they both duck for cover. Lozenge turns his back to run, but he's too slow. Kaboom indeed. Sebastian, Jubilant Grenadier. Cloud cover blocks most of the stars at night off the coast of India. There in the harbor sits a massive British naval ship lacquered with black and yellow stripes. 3 tall masts with stowed sails jut out from the top decks. Across the stern of the ship in large pale letters reads, "Victorious." Waves gently lap around the boat's wood and dock, but it's so quiet tonight that one can almost hear Sebastian's beating heart. Several dozen of Sebastian's French shipmates are rowing smaller boats through the night towards the HMS Victorious. Everyone in Sebastian's crew has the face of a killer, with deep sneers and angry faces, all except Sebastian, of course. Sebastian smiles intently at the picture of a woman in his hands. The woman is not a pretty woman, at least by most people's standards. But the creases on his face would pull tight a smile, even if he wasn't smiling intentionally. One of the sailors looks over at the picture in Sebastian's hands. "Ah, the face only a mother could love." "I've seen her in person. She's certainly intriguing," another man calls quietly. "Gentlemen, you seek a mate that is easy on the eyes, but hard to hold and keep. This woman here," Sebastian says, lifting the picture into the night, "is easy on the heart." One man immediately gags at the sight of the picture, and a few others snicker. Sebastian points to a man. "Bastian, have you ever felt true joy?" "What of you, Geoffrey? Blaise? Maxime?" The soldiers remain quiet. "See, gentlemen, the problem is that you chase after things in that life that cause you more heartache. I see you at port. You leave the ship for merrymaking, and return with scowls on your faces that you wear every day of our campaign." The men start to grumble amongst themselves. "Even if I were to die tonight during this little raid party, know that I will die with a smile on my face. I've lived a life worth living, loved a woman worth loving, who would sink to the bottom of the ocean in exaltation and irreplaceable joy." The men groan in displeasure as the boats reach the HMS Victorious. The men silence themselves and scale up the sides of the ship without a peep. Sebastian and the other grenadiers prepare their match cords by blowing gently on the end until the cord is cherry red. A man with a funny hat gives the order to begin the assault. In unison, the entire raid party leaps aboard the ship, but no enemy soldiers are in sight. "Captain," calls a sailor, "where are the British at?" "I'm not sure. Search every part of that ship at once," he responds. Sebastian and a few others begin heading down into the lower decks. Each deck gets darker than the last. Each deck is just as empty as the first. Once they reach the final deck, it's so dark that the sailors can't see more than a few inches in front of their faces. "See if you can find the torch on the wall. Should be plenty around here," one sailor whispers in the dark. Sebastian and the others stumble through the dark looking for a torch to light when Sebastian's hand bumps one. "Found one, gents. Just a second." Sebastian takes a match cord and attempts to light the torch with the cherry end. The torch reluctantly begins to smolder slightly, so Sebastian puts the cord away and puts the torch off the wall to stoke the flame alive. Within a few moments, the torch roars to life in Sebastian's hands, causing a slight burn to a finger. "Youch!" he roars as the torch falls to the deck at his feet. The others rush over to try and silence him as the torch rolls across the floor. As the torch rolls through the darkness, a new darkness creeps up to meet it. Black powder. "Oh no," whispers a sailor gripping Sebastian. "The Brits set us up!" Another gulps loudly. Sebastian never stops smiling. Kaboom! And kaboom he goes, along with the rest of the raiding party in the HMS Victorious. 7. I'm beginning to wonder if these guys are just flying by the seat of their pants. Lozenge stands strong, holding the girls as the explosion sends out a blast wave that knocks everyone else off their feet. Ryan and B's ears ring loudly as chaos ensues around them. Dirt and debris fill every breathable inch of air as chunks of the wall crumble to the ground. As the smoke and dust settle, Ryan and B begin to open their eyes. A roar grows among the ringing of their ears, slowly becoming louder. Then a rumble comes up through the ground like an earthquake. Ryan and B both look up as prisoners begin charging through the newly made hole in the wall. Scissormen are seen hog-tied and dragged out along with the riot. Out of the chaos, Sebastian and Leslie appear next to Lozenge. Maybe we should make haste at once and leave this place. Vicar Vicioso will surely dispatch a legion of scissormen to quell this uprising immediately, Leslie yells loudly. Where do we go? Ryan yells back. Stay close. We'll take you to meet Valentina. The group files in behind Sebastian and Leslie as they funnel out of the prison with thousands of captives. Minor scuffles between prisoners and scissormen break out in a wide open area of the hollow, but most men escape into one of the several tunnels leading out of the grotto and back above ground. We have to help them, Leslie, B cries out as unarmed men are trampled under the blades of the scissormen. We can't help them now, lass. We must respect their sacrifice and flee. Streams of emotion fill B's eyes as Leslie leads the group through a tunnel different from the one they'd come down, following another group of men above ground. As they breach the city, the bright light stings sensitive eyes. Before Ryan's eyes can adjust to the light, she hears Leslie call out, Push through, men! Don't let them take you alive! Ryan's eyes come into focus just as the group of men plows into a blockade of scissormen. Lozenge grabs a hold of Sebastian and Leslie as he drops his shoulder like a linebacker and barrels through friend and foe alike. Some men flow through the hole in the scissormen's defenses, but are immediately cut down. Lozenge, stop this right now! Put us down and go help them! B shouts. Lozenge slides to a halt, drops the 4 of them, and sprints back towards the small skirmish. It's at this point that Ryan notices the entirety of Lozenge's back is scorched from the explosion. We don't have time for this, B, Ryan shouts. They made time to protect us in prison. We'll make time to protect them now. Never leave a wingman behind, B answers calmly. Ryan looks back at Lozenge as he pummels several scissormen, triggering the battle to turn in the favor of the prisoners. Lozenge takes several cuts in the fight, causing stuffing to spill out. The prisoners fight back, taking control of the tussle, stealing scissors from the scissormen and turning them to dust. The prisoners nod in a sign of appreciation as they disperse into the 4 winds with new weapons. Lozenge limps back to the group with severe battle damage. B's face brings a warm smile, but her eyes are full of pain. Are you okay?
Okay,
the big rabbit answers. B tries to shove the loose stuffing back in, but she doesn't have any more pins to keep it all in. Ryan's stomach curls and knots watching the two interact. The love she has for him, yet she's so reckless to use him to save others. Do you guys have a knife on you by chance? Ryan asks Sebastian and Leslie. Sebastian pulls out a small boot knife and hands it to her.
Kaboom!
Yeah, kaboom, Ryan says sadly. She pulls the laces out of her high-top shoes and walks over to Lozenge with the laces and a knife. Can I help? B wipes tears and snot from her face and nods. Please do. Ryan takes the shoelaces and makes thick stitches with the pocket knife in well-placed knots. After several minutes, the stitches hold back the stuffing well enough that they won't be pulled out for a little while. It's not visibly pretty, but it's structurally sound. It's not permanent, but maybe we can find someone who can stitch them up correctly? Ryan forces a smile. Leslie initially hesitates, but joins them. Perhaps we can make a detour. I know an old seamstress in the quiet parts of town. Ryan thinks back to when they first left the train station and arrived at the fork in the road. To the right at the fork past the train station? Correct. She's hemmed my garb a few times since I've been here, Leslie says, pulling out his colorful tabard. Okay, lead the way, Ryan says as Sebastian joins them. She hands him back the knife. Thank you.
Boom.
Sebastian replies with a thumbs up. Suddenly, there's a loud scuffling of footsteps heading their way. Leslie shoves everyone to a nearby alleyway and draws a finger to his lips. Silence! Numerous scissormen rush past the alleyway in the direction of the prison break.
You hurry up now and find him. Vicioso will not stand by as his town is destroyed by cord bearers.
A cold voice calls from behind the scissormen with an accent reminiscent of German folk. Moments later, a hulk of a man standing nearly as tall as Lozenge passes by the alleyway in the same direction. He bears similar clothing to the scissormen, shredded fabric hanging loosely over a humanoid body. But this one is different. Greasy, black flesh peeks through the tattered tassels in the shape of swollen muscles, as if he were dipped directly into a vat of used motor oil. With every step he takes, a blackened footprint is left behind, boiling with giant rubbery bubbles and steaming. In his hand, and dragging behind him, is the shattered, wooden frame of an old guillotine, its rusted metal blade exposed on one end, and locked into the wood on the other side is the shape of the number 7, like a makeshift reaper scythe. What is that? Ryan hisses quietly. That is one of the Vicar Vicioso's commanding officers. This one goes by the name of Sergeant Sheol, and I am certain that our escapades underground have caught his attention, Leslie whispers jovially. Ryan turns to him, face beaming red. You're proud of yourself, aren't you? And generals? Plural? There are more of these? Only one more, and it is likely that we will be meeting him soon as well.
Kaboom!
Sebastian scowls. Yes, my friend, perhaps you're able to kaboom him, Leslie smirks. General Gehenna is one who captured Sebastian and threw him into prison, so he's got a bone to pick with him. Is that what your people say? The hulking man slowly disappears from sight, and Leslie takes charge of the group, leading them from alleyway to alleyway toward the seamstress. The streets are full of scissormen going to and fro, searching building to building for them. Leslie, he called us cord bearers because of our strings, right? Ryan asks. Yes, dear. Vicar Vicioso created the scissormen to hunt those with the pink strings. Why does Vicar Vicioso want our strings? B interrupts. Because he thinks that if he can harvest the right string, he can return to the land of the living. Ryan thumbs the string tied to her wrist. Does he not have his own string?
Kaboom!
Sebastian says, drawing a finger across his throat. Right! As Sebastian said, Vicar Vicioso is dead. He died long ago, just like Sebastian and I. Can he actually return to the land of the living with our string if he got a hold of them? Ryan asks. Leslie shrugs. Would you be willing to give up your life on the other side to find out? Ryan frowns. I might consider it. Leslie raises an eyebrow at her hesitation, but doesn't probe further. Let's get moving. After shuffling through the alleyways and avoiding scissormen, the group arrives at the seamstress's building and enters quickly. Leslie Cumberland! Good heavens, where on this side of the grave have you been? An unfamiliar voice calls out with an air of worry and disappointment. A rather voluptuous and voluminous woman enters the storefront wearing eccentric, Victorian-esque clothing. Penetrating eyes and cherry-red lips pursed tightly to create a scowl. Eyebrow-level bangs and shoulder-length ebony hair flow around that round, angry face. Around her protruding, though artificially narrowed waist is a ratcheted tight blue corset, tight enough to bounce a penny off. Below that, a poofy but simple white dress erupts from below the corset, fleeing from its constriction like dozens of snowshoe hairs in the clenched tightly by a python. Leslie bows his head in shame and runs a gloved hand through his red hair. "M'lady, I meant to come and see you, but—" With a pointed finger, the lady interrupts. "But nothing, mister! Come here at once, you rapscallion!" The woman opens her arms wide, ready to accept him for a hug. "They better not kiss." Leslie drags his armored feet across the wooden floors as he reluctantly joins her embrace. Cooing and aggressive one-sided kissing sounds emerge from the pile of really old people. Ryan rolls her eyes. Disgusting. Bee's eyes light up with joy and she slaps Ryan's arm. "They're in love." "Oh," Lozenge grumbles deeply. "Never leave my side ever again, do you hear me? Oh, and I've missed you so much," the woman calls through the entanglement. Leslie attempts to pry her off, but to no avail. "Susanna, please," he struggles. She lets out a loud gasp and releases him from her grip, and tears begin to well in her eyes. "You don't love me anymore." "No, that's not it, Susanna. I still adore you." Susanna's wailing intensifies. "You didn't say the L word." "I still like you, Susanna," Leslie retorts. Her screaming becomes more frantic. "Love?" Ryan looks out the window and mumbles shakily. Leslie, we're going to draw a crowd if you don't quiet her down." "Like love?" "Leslie," Ryan insists. "Okay," Leslie shouts. "I love you." Susanna's crying immediately ceases as if connected to a flipped light switch. "Kaboom!" Sebastian cheers. Leslie turns to Sebastian and glares. "Not kaboom!" With Susanna quiet and respecting his personal space, Leslie takes a few steps back, puts the shop counter between them, and clears his throat. "Now, Susanna, dear, my friends and I are in desperate need of your services." "Ah, yes, I remember, my dearest Sebastian, but who are the other three?" she asks. "The angsty teen is Ryan, and my name is Bee. Bee like Bumblebee. No," Bee interjects and gets interrupted herself. "Not Bee, Ryan sighs. Bee looks up at Ryan with narrow eyes. "Right." Susanna stifles a chortle as she speaks. "Such a lively bunch. And the massive rabbit?" Leslie wraps his arm around Lozenge. "This is why we're here. Come forward, Cough Drop." Bee scowls at him as Lozenge saunters toward the seamstress. "Oh, good heavens, you poor creature. Does it hurt at all?" Susanna asks, running her finger over the torn fabric and exposed fluffing. Lozenge makes no expression, but responds in a typical caveman fashion. "Owie." "And who stitched you together with such a lackadaisical stitching?" Susanna continues. Ryan's head droops in shame, hiding her eyes behind loose hair. Bee takes note and steps in with a raised fist. "Hey, she did her best with what we had at the time. Ryan is an excellent field medic, I'll have you know." Ryan perks up. Susanna corrects herself. "Oh dear, I'm sorry, child. I had no idea this was a field repair. It is certainly the most effective use of shoelacing I've ever seen." Bee lowers her fist and nods with approval. Susanna rushes into the back room, and the sounds of shuffling items echo to the front. Moments later, Susanna comes back in and grabs Lozenge by the hand. This will only take several minutes. Can you come take a seat in the back?" The two of them disappear for a while. Ryan is the first to break the silence. "So is she the reason you didn't go along to the after when your family did?" Leslie looks at her, shaking his head no while saying, "Yes, of course." "Oh, of course. She's the main reason. Did you have a secondary reason you didn't move along?" Leslie puts it bluntly. "Fear." "What is it that you're afraid of, Leslie?" Bea asks. "I'm afraid of losing the beauty of it all." "What's that even mean, Mr. Poetic?" Ryan remarks sarcastically. "I should like to die in sweets, a hill's leaves for winding sheets, and the searching sun to see that I am laid with decency, and the commissioned wind to sing his mighty psalm from a fall to spring, and annual tunes commemorate of nature's child the common fate. Ralph Waldo Emerson, 1831. Ryan and Bea sit quietly as if waiting for him to continue. "Mr. Emerson was describing a grave tucked away on a mountain. That grave was filled with bones of a man who had come and gone from this place. A man who had the dreams and goals, perhaps, a family that depended on him. Yet, he sits in a grave on a mountain. His soul is here, there, or everywhere else. But his dead eyes never get to see the beauty that is a mountain any longer. Tell me, Ryan, Bea, have you ever seen Vermont in the early autumn?" Ryan and Bea shake their head. "Neither have I, but I've heard of it. Leaves that flutter and burn like a campfire. Gentle leaves. Leaves that fall silently but crush loudly underfoot. I wish to hear the giggling of my younger brothers and sisters, playing among the refuse as my mother prepares the final meal of the day. Have you ever watched a sunset with someone you love, knowing it would be the last time you ever do?" Ryan thinks back, but doesn't find a single time that she's ever considered stopping to watch a sunset. She shakes her head. "No." Bea does the same. "I took it for granted then, being a young man and chasing wild dreams of no value, but I cherish moments, precious moments, of being a child on the rolling hills of England as the sea wind ran across the fields of wild grass. Fierce waves would crash at chalky cliffs every few seconds, sending up a cold mist that would kiss you softly on rosy cheeks. It was beautiful. Life is beautiful. Currently, I am in that grave that Mr. Emerson wrote about. I have lost my chance to see such beautiful sights, and I'm afraid that the halfway in is my last chance to experience beauty altogether." A single tear forms in Ryan's right eye and dribbles down her cheek to the floor. Sebastian sniffles a bit and wipes the tear and snot across his sleeve. "And what if the after is even more beautiful than anything you've ever experienced?" Bea asks. "I suppose I'm not willing to take that chance," Leslie says with a frown. A scratching comes at the front door and draws everyone's attention. Seconds later, the front window shatters as a flaming pot comes crashing through it, sending embers and boiling goo throughout the store. The crew leaps out of the way to avoid the flaming debris. A large, burning humanoid sticks his head through the splintered windowsill. He has no notable features as his lanky body is completely engulfed in unyielding flames. Not even eyes or a nose can be seen through the fire. As he leans in, he roars in a thick Cockney accent. "Hello there, friends. Vicar Vicioso has a large bounty on your heads. I've come to collect." 8. "This must be the other general," Ryan shouts through the chaos as scissormen leap through the window frame around the burning man. Leslie draws a sword. "Indeed, young one, General Gehenna." The burning man's smile curls to his ears, revealing an abnormally wide smile full of pure white teeth. "Pleasure's all mine, sweetness." "Kaboom!" Sebastian yells angrily, pulling out 2 sticks of dynamite. Leslie leaps at Sebastian as he throws both sticks and yells, "Sebastian, no!" Gehenna never stops smiling, even as the explosives are inches from his face. The explosion levels the seamstress's building and surrounding structures. Bee and Ryan wake up underneath a pile of heavy blue fabric. Ryan's head is spinning, and it's impossible to hear anything over the ringing in her head. "Guys!" Ryan shouts, but she can't even hear her own voice. Bee grabs onto Ryan's hand, and Ryan pulls her closer. As the ringing subsides, Ryan can hear Bee crying loudly in the sound of battle outside the textile cocoon. The two girls crawl out from underneath and see Leslie engaging General Gehenna in fierce combat, crashing the steel of his sword against the iron of Gehenna's flaming pot of goo. With each parry, tar and goop splash out of the pot and immediately catch fire. "Ryan, look! Lozenge!" Bee screams. Ryan turns to look and sees it is Lozenge's blue fur that they had crawled out from under. "He must have leaped on us before it went off to protect us," Ryan mumbles. Bee becomes frantic as she tries to pull brick and lumber from the rabbit. "Help me, Ryan, please!" Ryan looks at Leslie in his battle with Gehenna. Gehenna is overcoming Leslie with sheer power, and it is too much to handle alone. Ryan looks around for Sebastian and finds him curled up in a ball in the corner. Susanna is crouched over him, trying to wake him up. The scissormen are gone, probably turned to dust from the explosion. Thank goodness. Then Ryan looks back at Bee with tears in her eyes, begging for help. Ryan's eyes glaze over in response. Ryan hears her parents arguing in her head, the principal, the slamming of doors and fists, the screaming, and... "Ryan!" Leslie yells from across the battlefield. "Steel yourself! The team needs you!" Those words hit her like a lightning bolt. Adrenaline fills her bloodstream, and she rushes beside Bee, throwing debris off her lozenge as quickly as she can. Bee cries out as they tear through the rubble to the rabbit. "Lozenge, are you okay?"
"Okay,"
Lozenge rumbles as he stands, knocking the rest of the wreckage to the floor. "Lozenge, help Leslie. Bee, with me." Ryan charges as she runs towards Sebastian. Sebastian looks torn up, but he's got a grin on his face. "Is he dead?" Ryan asks coldly. Susanna punches his shoulder, and the little man squirms. "Hardly. He's just here for the party."
"Kaboom!"
Ryan picks the small man up by his collar, dangling his stubby little legs. "I'm going to need a kaboom if you're going to try something like that again. Can you walk?"
"Kaboom!"
Sebastian says with a shrug. Ryan puts him on his feet, and he immediately crumbles to the ground like a meat suit with no bones. "Bee, Susanna, help Sebastian the best you can, but stay out of harm's way. Flee if you must." Susanna pulls Sebastian into her arms. Sebastian nestles into her bosom with a smug look on his face. "What are you going to do?" Bee asks. Ryan leans down and picks up a pair of scissors from the piles of Scissorman dust. "I'm going to help protect my friends." Ryan rushes towards Leslie, Lozenge, and Gehenna with the pair of scissors. As she rushes, she examines the battlefield. Gehenna's pot is connected to a long iron chain. When they're close to him, he can use the pot like a heavy mace, swinging it by its charred edges. When they're further away, he uses the chain instead by swinging the pot around his head and lobbing it toward Leslie and Lozenge. As she runs, Lozenge is struck several times with the pot, but seems to rebound instantly. Lozenge seems immune to blunt damage for the most part. Leslie, however, being made of flesh, would surely receive a fatal hit if struck. "I need to use that to my advantage. Think, Ryan, think!" Ryan mumbles to herself as she joins the three on the battlefield. General Gehenna turns towards her as she joins the fray.
"Ah, sweetness! So nice of you to join us."
"Though he is large, his speed is admirable. Do not underestimate him, Ryan, Leslie calls out, huffing loudly. Lozenge and Leslie join her off to the side as General Gehenna taunts them. So, the explosion did nothing? Ryan asks. Leslie shakes his head. One cannot fight fire with fire and expect to win. Ryan turns to the rabbit. Lozenge, did she finish stitching you? Looking over him, Ryan sees that Susanna stitched him up well, but his fur is still burned severely in several places, making him far less cuddly.
Okay,
Lozenge says, rubbing his fur.
Not fuzzy. No more.
I see that, big guy. I'm about to ask you to get a little less fuzzy, too. Is that okay? Ryan asks, resting a hand on him.
Marshmallow,
the rabbit replies. Yeah, you're going to be a marshmallow, unfortunately. Ryan, we can't keep relying on Lozenge to fight every battle for us. There will not be much left of him, Leslie corrects. Ryan sighs and looks back at Gehenna, who hasn't stopped making snide comments that aren't worth writing down. We can't just not use him, though. Leslie grabs at his beard, deep in thought. The fountain by the train station, it's not far from here, Ryan blurts out. Leslie raises an eyebrow. Are you requiring the quenching of your thirst? No, what if we pushed him in? He's on fire. Water would make him not fire anymore. Interesting usage of the English language, child. You know what I mean, though. If we put him out, will that kill him? Gehenna calls out from behind them. Wouldn't it kill me? He says it would not suffice to deliver, Leslie attempts to respond. Ryan interrupts. I have ears and I can hear him, Leslie. My apologies. Perhaps we should switch our speech to whispers? Ryan switches to whispers. What if we push him over the edge? How would you manage that? Ryan looks at Lozenge. Perhaps. I've got a plan that wouldn't make you such a marshmallow, big guy. Lozenge lets out a low growl. Ryan whispers to the group.
Oi, I can hear you.
Gehenna grumbles. No, you can't, Ryan yells from the huddle. Lozenge takes off running as fast as his stuffing-filled legs can run. Gehenna takes off after him, spinning the pot above his head. Ryan and Leslie split off in a V pattern to either side of Gehenna, drawing his attention. Gehenna lets out a laugh as he swings the pot by the chain toward both of them in a half-moon swing. Ryan jumps over the pot as it swings past her feet. Leslie ducks under as it swings past his head. Ryan and Leslie both continue running, closing the distance on Gehenna. The general rips back on the chain, causing the pot to return to him in an instant, sloshing the goop on the floor around him. Then, Gehenna rears the pot above his head to bring it down upon Ryan. Kaboom! A small explosion loosens Gehenna's grip on the pot, dropping the heavy iron cauldron on his head down to the floor, where it smashes his foot. Yow! Gehenna roars in pain. Sebastian sits off to the side with a huge grin on his face. Ryan nods to him and takes this time to impale the scissors through a link in the chain and into Gehenna's calf muscle. Leslie, now! Gehenna rears in pain as the scissors pierce his flesh. Leslie closes the distance on the other side with an epic slash of his sword. The two halves of the scissors split apart, locking the scissors and the chain into Gehenna's leg like a fishhook. Gehenna reaches down and pulls the chain, attempting to free it from his leg, but it's no use. Ryan grabs the loose end of the chain near the pot and begins to pull it taut around the other leg. Then comes the sound of running in wet sneakers. Ryan looks up and sees Lozenge, sopping wet and barreling toward them, stomping along with soggy wet blue paws. Right on time, big guy, Ryan smiles. Lozenge's voice echoes from several buildings away.
Wet!
Gehenna diverts his attention to the rabbit charging towards him.
I told you water will not harm me,
The water is not to harm you, it's to protect him, Leslie says, leaning on his sword. Lozenge drops a shoulder as he plows into Gehenna, sending steam into the air. Gehenna attempts to sprawl out over Lozenge, but the chain wrapped around and through his legs pulls them together, and he tumbles over with a crash. All together now, Ryan shouts as Leslie, Lozenge, Sebastian, and her all grab the pot. Bea and Susanna jump into the party to help as well. The group drags the heavy pot to the edge of the halfway in and lobs it into the darkness. The chain pulls tight, and the weight of it pulls Gehenna to the edge, where he grips on with all of his strength.
I'll be getting you in this life or the next, I swear of it,
Gehenna grumbles in defiance. Looking forward to it, Ryan says as she stomps his flaming fingers. His body disappears quietly into the deep. 9. Excellent strategic insight, young lady, Leslie cheers. We should take you to see Valentina at once now that Lozenge has been repaired sufficiently. You destroyed my entire neighborhood, and now you're leaving me again, Leslie Cumberland. Susanna's shrill voice echoes through the burning streets. The explosion leveled several buildings, including her workshop. Gehenna's fire is spreading through the rest of the nearby shops and buildings as panicked civilians rush to put out the flames. We're really sorry, Miss Susanna, Bea apologizes sincerely. We didn't mean to make a mess of things. Sebastian's face curls into a frown. Kaboom! Yes, my dear, it seems duty calls. We must get these children home to their parents at once. Forgive me for my duties, will you? Leslie says with the cool tone. Susanna reaches for Leslie to give him a hug of excessive proportions. He resists at first, but falls into her embrace. She repeatedly kisses him on the face as the others snicker to themselves. One more for good luck, Susanna, Ryan calls between her giggling. Susanna plants a big wet kiss right on the tip of Leslie's nose and releases him. He adjusts his chainmail, and his voice cracks as he speaks. Let's move out! The entirety of the halfway inn is in shambles. Scissormen are ransacking the town. Fires burn out of control, and riots are happening among the abused citizens. Leslie leads them down alleyways until he reaches a seemingly abandoned part of town. Windows are boarded up. Street slime coagulates in unkempt corners of the street and buildings. Leslie, this place is disgusting, Ryan says. Bea agrees as she steps over the filth. Leslie nods. Disgusting for you is disgusting for Vicar Vicioso's men as well. He arrives at the boarded-up window and knocks against the fractured glass several times to a familiar jingle. Inside the building, Ryan hears the shuffling of feet, and several pairs of eyes appear in the darkness. The eyes stare at the group for a moment before disappearing in a hurry. Moments later, part of the wall with trash and other debris cracks open, revealing a hidden pathway inside. The group steps in. A cool breeze pulls through the cracks in the outside masonry and windows. Inside, dozens of folks are turning wrenches on strange machinery, prodding electrical components with colorful probes from expensive-looking equipment and the like. Though they are very busy, they also remain fairly quiet, given into their laborious tasks. Bea taps on Ryan's shoulders. What's up? Ryan asks. Bea points into the distance. Look, those are the men we saved earlier from the prison. Ryan looks on as Bea waves wildly at some men in the corner of the room. They wave back, seemingly remembering their rescuers. Leslie cuts right through the middle of the workers toward a tall, Amazonian-looking woman standing off to the side of the room, near a steel table covered in schematics and other long, confusing papers. Her posture is perfectly upright as she stands proudly in the grease-stained coveralls. The sleeves are ripped off at the shoulders, revealing well-defined arms, glistening from sweat and oil. She's got a chiseled jaw, blonde hair pulled so tight in a bun you'd swear it was a helmet. What little skin of her body is showing is riddled with scars, including one across her left eye that is clearly caused blindness. Cracked goggles sit upon her head like an industrial crown. Leslie and the woman walk over to the group. Companions, this is Valentina. She directs a faction of men against Vicar Vicioso's endeavors in the area. B steps forward and does a little curtsy. B is my name. B like Ryan. Ryan blurts out as B continues her speech. The big blue fella is named Lozenge, and you've already been acquainted with my partner Sebastian, Leslie interjects. Of course. Valentina nods at Sebastian. Valentina speaks with a heavy Russian accent. The pleasure is all mine, comrades. Please join me in my office, and we will discuss the matter of Vicar Vicioso. The woman turns and points an open palm toward an office door tucked in the back of the room. Thick calluses line the palms of her hands and knuckles as she points. The group heads that way together. I bet she could polish broken glass with those hands, Ryan whispers to B, who giggles. Valentina hears the two and replies, Not glass, but I can polish aluminum barehanded. Ryan's cheeks run red as they all file into the office. It's stuffy and filled with stale, hot air, but Valentina seems comfortable and uncomfortable. As she plops down in the broken steel chair, she kicks her feet up on a decrepit wooden desk and speaks. You seek to kill Vicar Vicioso, yes? Not kill him. We just need him to stop from causing problems down here, B interrupts. It is impossible to live with wolves if you are but a small pig. Ryan's eyebrows raise in confusion. What's that even mean? She's attempting to inform you that in some cases, pacifist campaigns serve no purpose. Some folks are ravenous wolves in the forest full of prey. Only by removing the wolf from the forest are the pigs able to find peace, Leslie replies. Kaboom! Sebastian chimes in. Valentina nods and slams a fist on the desk. Yes, violence! Kill the wolf, and the pigs can play in their filth. Sebastian is initially startled by her slamming her fist, but he immediately becomes jittery like a dog with the zoomies. B snickers as Ryan's eyes roll. How do you plan to bring this violence to Vicar Vicioso? We've never even seen him before. How do you know he's still alive in the halfway inn? Ryan asks. Ryan hears Leslie mumble. Fair point. It's been years, decades, since I've seen him. His castle lies at the bottom of the mountain. He is there, and he has been there for a long time, Valentina answers. Ryan's fists clench. The conductor said the same thing as if it was merely a rumor. Have you actually seen him? Valentina taps at the cheek below her scarred eye. Yes. The eye, cloudy and white, stares back at Ryan, making her feel uneasy. Her fists unclench, and she tries to tuck behind her friends out of sight. Valentina's eyes shift away from Ryan and back toward Leslie. My people have everything we need to raid his fortress in the mountain. You, however, lack the firepower needed to burst through his defenses. Can we please borrow some of your weapons then? Please? B asks with the sweet face of a young child. No. B pouts. Valentina continues. For years we have fought with the scissor men. For the worm we have. Wait, worm? Those big worms out there? What's a worm got to do with anything? Ryan interrupts. Valentina comes around the desk and lays a hand on Ryan's shoulder. The worms have everything to do with the world below. I'm surprised Leslie has not told you. Leslie frowns. Time has not been on our side. Valentina runs a grimy finger across Leslie's lips to silence him. The worms are a currency of this world, much like gold and silver above.
The worms possess a pearl of great value that gives its owner the ability to make a single wish.
Like a genie? Bee asks.
Exactly like a genie, little one. One pearl gives you one wish.
So we can get a worm and wish to go home, Bee exclaims.
No, you cannot leave this place by wish. There are at least 3 rules with the worm pearls that we've discovered. You cannot bring anyone to and from this place, meaning you cannot wish Vicar Vicioso away, and you cannot bring a great general back from the after. After you cannot affect someone's free will to exist as they are.
Ryan speaks up. So we cannot wish Vicar Vicioso wasn't evil after all?
Correct.
And the last rule?
The obvious. You cannot wish for more orbs, or worms, or wishes, Valentina replies.
You said at least 3 rules, meaning you're not certain if there are other rules?
Valentina nods. That is correct.
What happens if you make a wish against the rules then?
The orb doesn't pop, and you are not granted your wish.
Ryan's mind starts to run wild with ideas and potential loopholes. Wait a minute, Leslie. Is that how you got those books you had in your room? Leslie nods.
Some of us waste our wishes on useless things, Valentina sighs. Literature is not a waste. The beauty of words is something that echoes throughout eternity. Something that has clearly been forgotten by some of the more uncouth barbarians among us, Leslie retorts angrily.
Valentina grits her teeth and pulls a knife from her boot.
Do you have any more to say, poet? Perhaps I'll carve out your tongue or an ear so you can live dramatically as your lips run.
Sebastian pulls back on Leslie's tabard as Bee runs between them. Stop that! Both of you! The 2 warriors stare at each other for a while before Valentina relents, slamming the boot knife back into its sheath. Ryan gives the 2 a second to cool down before speaking. Is that how Vicar Vicioso has risen to power over the years?
Yes, decades ago. He found the first worm pearl. He raised himself an army and became more and more powerful with every pearl, Valentina answers. He used the pearls to create the army of scissormen you see tearing the halfway inn apart. He also created General Gehenna and Sergeant Sheol, with whom you've recently become acquainted, Leslie adds. So, we go find the worm, ask it for the pearl, and make a wish? Ryan asks. Valentina shakes her head. Not ask. You take it. You have to cut it out of the worm. A worm pearl is a worm heart.
Bee gags. We have to kill the poor worm?
Yes.
The worms are huge. Where's that heart located? Ryan asks.
Near the mouth.
Ryan remembers the worm she saw flying above the train. It had huge, terrifying mandibles that looked like they could crush a person quickly. I'm sorry. You want us to go through the mouth where those big fangs are? Ryan asks, dumbfounded. Valentina cackles in a manly manner.
Mouth is quickest, but I encourage you to get creative.
Great. Being dead is more dangerous than being alive at this point. Okay, find the worm, kill the worm, take the pearl, and make a wish. What do we wish for? Ryan asks.
Up to you. Wish for a jet, battleship, or a really big gun. Whatever.
Valentina shrugs.
Where's the worm? Leslie asks. My scouts say that one just landed not far from here. It's preparing to cocoon soon. I'll drop you off. It's much faster than walking.
You have a car? Ryan asks.
Something like that,
Valentina says with a grin. 10. A tortoise. She was talking about a tortoise. The glowing tortoise matches the ones Ryan had seen earlier at the base of the mountain. They're all as tall and wide as several houses, and just as gentle as the tortoises on the other side of the grave. The shell on this one is even more peculiar up close. Its carapace is tinned together and tinted just like stained glass. Some tortoises are stained in more earthy or fiery patterns, while this one is tinted with cool colors like cerulean and grassy green. Inside the shell looks like a mini galaxy, swirling violently, ricocheting off the edge of the glass with a ping and rebounding off the other side in an unrelenting pursuit of escape. At the front of the tortoise is a massive pile of fluorescent trees that it chomps upon blissfully. "They're much taller in person," Bee says, petting its massive scaly foot. "Tortoises are slow, though. Wouldn't we be better off walking?" Ryan asks. Valentina laughs loudly.
"These are not your average turtles. See inside the shell there."
Leslie mumbles. "Tortoise?" Ryan nods.
"Afterburners."
"So the tortoise is a jet?" Valentina looks confused.
"What is a jet?"
"Of course. She probably died way before jets." Ryan shakes her head with a smile. "Never mind. What happens if the glass breaks and the afterburner thing escapes?"
"Kaboom!"
Sebastian says enthusiastically. Valentina gives Sebastian a thumbs up.
"We all die. Exciting, yes?"
"He's adorable, but I'm not sure about riding a giant bomb," Bee responds. Ryan nods. "I agree." The creaking of the pulley system echoes through the warehouse as a metal cage lowers onto the top of the beast. The hulking, shelled body sinks a little closer to the ground as the weight rests upon it. It doesn't seem to mind either way about the extra weight. It just keeps on eating. Valentina's eyes light up with triumph.
"My engineers have a solution, as you can see. It's an armored turtle."
Leslie corrects again. "Tortoise!"
"Yes, same, Ginger Man,"
Valentina replies. Leslie's face flushes bright red. At a second glance, Ryan notices there's an upper and lower catwalk going around the edge of the armored shell with several graded stairwells in between. There are various weapon stations on the shell's 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock hand positions on both levels. Ryan's eyes rest upon several of them on this side of the turtle, including several mini catapults for launching rocks and heavy trash, as well as makeshift ballista for launching sharpened, fluorescent tree trunks. "This is incredible," Ryan marvels.
"While some of us were wishing for looks, others are wishing for firepower,"
Valentina cackles. Leslie, still red, mumbles words that won't be repeated here. Bee notices his frustration and steps in. "Hey now, books are good too," Bee exclaims. Valentina turns to Bee and pulls a book from her coveralls.
"Yes, child, you are right. Just like the swords, not all books are created equal."
In her hands is a classic leather-bound book titled Overthrowing an Evil Warlord in a Strange World, Volume 3, Medieval Siege Equipment. Ryan scratches her head. "That's unusually specific." Valentina runs her fingers along the base of the book, where the author's name is included, by Valentina Casanova. Leslie's eyes light up, and his tone changes. "You're a writer."
"Did that get your attention, Quill Driver?"
Valentina raises an eyebrow. Leslie immediately goes back to pouting.
"All right, everyone, load up. We're heading to the worm," Valentina shouts.
Everyone climbs aboard via rope ladder hanging from the scaffolding on the tortoise shell. Valentina rushes to the front, where there is a wooden dashboard with several levers, cranks, and dials. Once the last person is aboard, the tortoise leaps into motion. The initial jolt puts everyone in the group on their butts. Thankfully, the catwalk railings keep them upright. Workers on the ground swing open large chain-link gates from the warehouse as the tortoise lumbers towards them. As soon as the massive creature clears the gates, Valentina begins spinning a hand crank on the control panel as fast as she can move it. Underneath all the steel, a strange rotary noise begins to hum along, low at first, and building toward a deafening volume. Bea and Ryan put their hands over their ears. "Prepare for acceleration! Brace yourselves!" Valentina yells. "What's she yelling?" Bea screams with her hands gripping her ears tightly. "I can't hear a—" The tortoise lunges forward with tremendous speed, sending Bea, Ryan, and Sebastian to the floor once more. Lozenge catches Leslie so he doesn't fall all the way down like the others. "Got you," Lozenge mutters slowly through the roar of the afterburners. Ryan and Bea grip into the metal grates on the platform and slowly rise to their feet. Sebastian rolls towards the back of the beast like a tumbleweed. The massive creature is moving along at such a rapid pace that the entire town is passing them as a blur on each side. Several brief screams are heard as the beast charges forward. Hopefully they're not hurt. Wait, what? Who am I? I'm starting to sound like Bea. And then it's over. The beast slows to a crawl, bottoms out, and lets out a puff of air as it collapses to the ground, scattering dust to the wind. For a moment, all goes quiet. There's a slight ringing in their ears from the roar of the engine. Bea rushes to the front, where Valentina is standing. "Oh no! Did you kill it?" Ryan and the others start heading toward the front to join them. "Not yet, but they might," Valentina says, pointing into the distance. Ryan and the others make it to the front of the tortoise. In front of them, there are at least 100 scissormen. Most of them are trying to subdue a massive squealing bobbit worm. There in the front stands their leader from before, Sergeant Sheol. Just like before, he stands menacingly with his guillotine-shaped axe, covered and dripping with his foul, sizzling oil. And then the German accent rips through the silence like a siren. "Code bearers! Wunderbar!" Oneteen. Scissormen rush toward the incapacitated tortoise. "Man your battle stations! Prepare to be boarded!" Valentina yells. Leslie and Sebastian jump on the nearest siege equipment, Sebastian on a rock-throwing catapult, Leslie on a tree-trunk ballista. Ryan, Bea, and Lozenge stand dumbfounded. Bea's frantic voice overcomes the sound of trampling feet. "We don't know what to do." "Bear, you go to the ladder and make sure no one climbs up. Child, you assist the ginger with loading his equipment. Angry teen, you do whatever. Just don't let them get up here." Bea runs off to assist Leslie while Lozenge stumbles over to the ladder. Uncertainty strikes Ryan once more as she looks around for a way to help. The scissormen have reached the bottom of the tortoise and are attempting to climb up the sides. Some scissormen try jumping and clapping their scissors shut, but they only clink against the metal of the platforms. A few make it to the ladder and begin climbing. "Lozenge, grab me a pair of their scissors," Ryan shouts. Lozenge grabs the first pair of scissors he can reach. As he lifts them, the scissor man that owns them is still attached. Lozenge throws them both to Ryan. The scissor man clashes against the metal grate, dazed. Ryan rushes at him, screaming like a banshee, before kicking him in the side. The scissorman curls up into a ball, clearly hurt, and Ryan kicks him into the crowd below them. Ryan grabs the scissors and prepares for combat. "Thank you, Lozenge." "Welcome," he says, smashing several scissormen on the way up the ladder. Explosions start ravaging the scenery, drawing Ryan's attention to the front. Sebastian has exchanged the rocks for his bombs, and he is lobbing them into the crowds of scissormen. Several bodies launch into the sky and immediately turn to dust. "Help!" Lozenge moans from behind her. The scissormen have made it up the steps and have clung to Lozenge like Velcro. Ryan rushes to his side and begins slashing at the attackers, making short work of them and turning them into dust. More scissormen have climbed the ladder, and more are coming up the sides, climbing on each other to reach them. Bang! Bang! The sound of planks of wood clapping echoes from above them. Ryan looks up and finds Valentina shouldering a vintage bolt-action rifle. It fires a few more times. Ryan looks down and several scissormen have been scattered to the wind, leaving their scissors behind. "We're losing ground fast, Valentina," Ryan shouts, kicking a scissorman off the railing and slashing another. "Keep fighting!" she shouts back, firing several more shots. "Help!" B's voice reverberates off the metal. Ryan turns to find Sergeant Shield hanging from the railing with a hand and swinging his guillotine around like an axe while trying to hit her allies with it. Leslie is preoccupied with scissormen climbing over the edge to protect her. Instincts kick in, and Ryan bolts forward, kicking up another pair of scissors in her other hand. With one pair of scissors, she throws it like a boomerang, hoping to hit Shield with the sharp part of it. It clangs loudly against the grate and slides past his head into the dirt behind and below him.
"Are you trying to take my head, girl?"
Shield yells. Ryan continues her sprint forward, ignoring his comments. She leaps into the air with the battle cry so loud that everyone stops to look. She raises the scissors above her head and then slams the blunt end into Shield's hand, gripping the railing. Shield roars with pain and falls onto scissormen below with a splat. The black oil on his body sprays in different directions, covering the scissormen with boiling oil. Several of them hiss in pain and turn to dust, especially those he fell on top of, but that doesn't stop his advance. Now, the scissormen are climbing the railing around the entire first level of the structure. Valentina yells out,
"Get up on the second level! The first floor has been compromised!"
Lozenge abandons his post and heads up the stairwell nearest to him. Ryan, B, Sebastian, and Leslie sprint to the other side and make their way up to the second floor, and the battle begins again. Sebastian and Leslie man the front-mounted siege weapons, spitting logs, rocks, and bombs at everyone they can find. Lozenge defends one stairwell while Ryan and Valentina defend the other. The team have made serious dent in the scissormen's ranks, but they continue to come, and the party's energy is waning.
"Do you grow tired of the games yet, cord bears?"
Shield mocks from the floor below. "Valentina, we can't keep this up," Ryan says, huffing loudly with every swing of her weapon.
"The young lady is correct. We've been pushed to the edge without much room left to breathe," Leslie adds.
Sebastian adds his bit too.
"Kaboom!" "Yes, the dwarf is right," Valentina says.
Sebastian gleams with enthusiasm at her affirmation. "What's he right about?" Ryan asks.
"We're going to blow the turtle up,"
Valentina responds. B screams, "You can't blow him up." Ryan slashes at several more scissormen. "We're running out of options, B. If we die, the tortoise dies. If the tortoise offers his life for the good of the group, then we might live after all, and you'll be able to go home." Why did that sting so much to say? Ryan's face blushes, and she hides it by facing the enemy instead of her team. "I'm not going to let you kill him. He's a nice tortoise," B exclaims. Valentina sticks a finger to her mouth to silence B.
"I'm blowing up the turtle. I'm not asking. My turtle, my rules."
B starts wailing loudly. The tortoise wakes up and leaps to its feet before taking off in a brisk jog. Dozens of scissormen hanging onto the rails get jostled loose and propelled into the air behind them.
"Aha! The threat of violence seems to wake him from his slumber. Smart turtle," Valentina cackles.
Scissormen brush up against the control panel, causing the turtle to turn and run erratically. Scissormen not aboard get trampled underfoot and immediately turn to dust. Everyone aboard the frantic reptile loses their footing with each erratic turn, causing them to stumble about. Some fall overboard, while others grip onto railings and each other for dear life. Each twist and turn becomes more and more nauseating. I'm starting to wonder if the bomb would have been the better alternative. "Valentina, do something!" Ryan shouts over the commotion. Valentina tosses the rifle to the side.
"Angry teen, Give me your scissors. Everyone jumps off the turtle when I say, ready. Ready, Lozenge says. The others try to nod their heads, but Ryan can see Sebastian's eyes spinning in his skull like a tornado. Ryan tosses the scissors to Valentina and grabs Sebastian and the still crying Bee. Ready! It's been a pleasure to serve with you all. I haven't felt this alive since the war. Everyone, jump! Valentina says with a smile. Everyone jumps, and then Valentina jumps. She jumps right into Sergeant Sheol with those scissors. They crash together and sparks go flying. She cuts her way through to the control panel and kicks on the afterburners. The rest is a blur. The tortoise takes off in a sprint, carrying the scissormen, Sergeant Sheol, and Valentina right off the edge of the halfway in. Moments later, an explosion fills the abyss with fire and light. The rest of the party lands in the dirt, skidding to a stop. Ryan coughs as dust is kicked up into the air. Is everyone okay? Ryan scans the area. The battlefield is covered in dust and scissors. Leslie's the first to answer. By golly, they haven't killed me yet, dear. Lozenge stands up, covered from head to toe in brown dirt. Dirty. Ryan giggles and picks up Bee and Sebastian. They both have scuffs and bruises, but are otherwise okay. Bee's face is filthy, but tears have carved a clean path. Kaboom! Sebastian points to the mushroom cloud below the halfway in. Bee rests her head in her hands and whimpers as Sebastian gently pats her back. Ryan also puts a hand on Bee's back. She saved our lives. Valentina and the tortoise. They're heroes. Groans come from the cliff's edge as a pitch-black hand reaches up. I have had it up with my eyeballs with the core bearers, Sheol says, pulling himself up. Prepare for battle. A large pair of scissors sticks out of his shoulders as he stands tall and proud. He reaches up and pulls the scissors with a grunt before tossing them to the ground. Then he brings his fists up to his face like a boxer. Leslie steps forward with the sword drawn, but he's breathing heavily and shaky on his feet. Ryan walks beside him, scissors ready. Then Bee, Lozenge, and Sebastian fall in line with the others. His weapon is gone. We can do this, Ryan says calmly. Leslie tries to catch his breath. Don't underestimate the power of those fists. Sheol begins to shuffle forward, kicking up dust with every scoot. The party fans out so he can't take them out with a single swing. Sheol heads straight toward Bee, sending a flurry of jabs and hooks in front of him. Bee screams. Lozenge dives in to block the hits. Lozenge takes several shots to the face and body, but it has little effect on him. That's right. Blunt damage is ineffective against him. Perfect. Lozenge lunges. Sheol dodges and throws a left hook. The rabbit tumbles to the ground. Boom! A flash of light and sound pops at Sheol's feet. He trips. Leslie swings. Whoosh! Leslie's sword cuts through the shawl around Sheol's head, revealing the face underneath. His mouth is gaping open as black tar oozes out of the opening. Like Gehenna, his face above the mouth lacks definitive features like eyes and a nose, but the skin is pale white. Underneath his flesh, blue veins can be seen pumping blood, throbbing with every beat of his heart. Sheol recovers and brings up a heavy uppercut, catching Leslie by surprise and launching him vertically. Leslie! Bee yells. Leslie hits the ground but doesn't move. Ryan retreats towards the rear of the battlefield. Bee, help him! Lozenge, distract him a bit. Sebastian, come with me. Lozenge immediately goes to lay hands on the tar man. The two exchange blows, neither of which seems to have any effect on the other. Kaboom! Sebastian says as he pulls up beside Ryan. Ryan nods with a grin. Yes. Kaboom! I need you to strap all your explosives to my scissors. Sebastian begins to complain in one-word sentences and shakes his head. Trust me, I need a big kaboom. A little kaboom isn't going to do the trick. I want to send this German to the moon.
Sebastian twirls his mustache a moment, staring intently at Ryan. Okay? He sticks out his hands for the scissors, and Ryan gladly relinquishes them. He begins working diligently, strapping explosives to the scissors. Ryan looks up at Shield and Lozenge and sees the tar man sprinting toward them, with Lozenge holding on to his hips for dear life. Sebastian, please hurry, Ryan shouts as Shield closes the distance between them. Sebastian nods and keeps working, not a care in the world. Ryan's heart starts pounding in her chest as danger draws near. Sebastian! Ryan yells. Shield's stomping can be felt in their feet. Ryan's hands begin to shake. Ryan yells once more. Seb! A fist comes through the air and pounds Sebastian off his feet. His limp body lands several feet away, sliding and then rolling until he comes to a stop. Ryan rolls under the next punch and grabs the scissors, but she doesn't notice another punch coming her way. In the last few moments before the punch hits her, she sticks up the scissors, point facing out, and hopes for the best. Then she blacks out. Twoteen. Boom! An explosion rocks the ground where Ryan lies, breathing life back into her. Dust and rock fill the air once more as she feels someone pull her to her feet. It's Sebastian. He laughs hysterically and points to the sky. Kaboom! Ryan's vision is still a bit blurry, but she sees the tar man high in the sky, nearly touching the river's water above. Then, with the brief twinkling of a star, he vanishes from sight completely. Sebastian helps her over to Leslie and Bea. Leslie is limping heavily and bruised. Ryan's vision clears and she can see that Sebastian is severely bruised, but he keeps smiling. Then, he lays his eyes on Ryan's string and the smile melts away. Sebastian gasps. Kaboom! Ryan, your string! Bea exclaims. Ryan looks at her pink cord to find it frayed and hanging on by a single thread. Her stomach knots. I nearly lost my chance to go back home. Ryan swallows down her anxiety. It's okay. It's still connected, right? I suppose so, but you should be more cautious going forward if you plan to go home with Bea, Leslie responds. Doesn't he know that only one of us gets to go home? Ryan nods, and the four of them limp toward the worm they came to get. Ryan looks down at her mangled and sizzled string. I feel like I'd rather Bea went home, but at the same time, I don't want that door to close. The worm is massive but beautifully colored. Its iridescent body flickers magnificently with green, purples, and blues. The scissormen have strapped it to the ground with ropes and heavy metal stakes. Its large mandibles snap together loudly as it struggles beneath the ropes. So pretty, Bea whispers as they walk up to it. Do we have to kill it? Seems like that's the only way, Ryan replies. Leslie lays a hand on the beast. They are beautiful, but this is a necessary sacrifice. Ryan looks at her string and then back at the crushing mandibles on the front of the worm. She said we had to go through the front? Not quite. She did say that was the fastest route to the heart. Leslie answers. Ryan picks up a new pair of scissors lying in the dust. Her eyes dart across the helpless group of adventurers around her, beaten, bruised, and lovers of animals. I'll do it, I guess. Kaboom? Sebastian asks. No, we've had enough of kaboom for one day, bud, Ryan answers. Sebastian frowns and walks away, kicking a rock. Ryan, your string! Allow me to handle it! Leslie insists. Ryan turns to the knight. You're in no shape to fight. Sebastian grumbles several feet away. Kaboom! No kaboom! Bea lets out a big exhale. I'll do it. Everyone turns to look at her with shocked expressions on their faces. "Are you certain, dear?" Leslie asks. "Yes." "You don't have to do that," Ryan says, walking toward Bee, but she falls to her knees. Bee grabs the scissors from Ryan. "I am more than just moral support. Rest." Ryan looks up at Bee from the ground. She's resistant at first, but then she just crumbles to the ground to rest. Sebastian and Leslie sit down for a breather as well. "Lozenge, please give me a lift," Bee commands, standing beside the worm. Lozenge lumbers over and lifts her toward the top of the worm, and Bee climbs up the rest of the way. She walks over to the front of the worm, raises the scissors high, and brings them down into the worm's forehead. The worm instantly ceases movement. "I hope it was painless," Bee says, and disappearing into it entirely. "Okay, that was pretty disgusting," Ryan says to the other two men. Leslie nods. "It's more prompt to go through the mouth." Now that it is no longer moving, Ryan rests her back against the worm and faces Sebastian and Leslie. "Sebastian, you're almost always so happy. Why is that?" Ryan asks. Sebastian shrugs.
Kaboom!
Bee starts to carve through the side of the worm next to Ryan, which startles her at first, until Bee pops her head out. "I got it, guys," Bee says. "I got it, guys," Bee says. And a pearl the size of a strawberry comes out of the hole. Ryan, distracted by the conversation, ignores the pearl as Bee places it in her palm, glad this part of the mission is over. "Surely you know more words than just kaboom," Ryan says. Bee climbs out of the hole covered in worm juice. "Kaboom," Sebastian replies. Ryan's face reddens. "Say bang instead of kaboom." Sebastian shakes his head in frustration.
Kaboom!
"I wish you would just speak English, for crying out loud." The pearl in Ryan's hands bursts, sending thousands of tiny bubbles into the air.
"I cannot speak English because I am French, you belligerent clown. Cease your bullying at once. Oh, good heavens,"
Sebastian says. Everyone sits around the worm in silence. "What have I done?" Ryan's face, once blushed with anger, flushes with embarrassment and disappointment. Tears well up in her eyes as she stands to her feet slowly, and then she starts running away from her friends, away from the worm, and away from her problems. Her friends yell as she takes off, but she doesn't stop. "I'm so stupid. Why did I run my mouth? And they were yelling, and they were so mad at me, just like my parents." The harder she cries, the harder it becomes for her to see where she's heading, but she runs and runs until she collapses from exhaustion. "Miss?" A familiar voice calls to her. Ryan lifts her sobbing head to see the conductor standing above her. The conductor's frown is pulled tight over his face, but she looks around and notices that she's at the train station, the long black train not too far away. "Eyes full of sadness. Have you decided to board the train after all?" the conductor asks. "That doesn't sound like such a bad idea after all." "That doesn't sound like such a bad idea after all," Ryan sniffles. The conductor helps her to her feet. "Why the tears, miss?" "I'm such a screw-up. Everything goes so well until I do something, and then it all goes to crap." Ryan's hand brushes up against the railing of the train stairwell. "How did I get here this fast? Is the conductor trying to force me onto the train?" "Ah, I see. Perhaps you're ready to move along." Ryan resists, pulling against the grips of the conductor. He immediately releases. "Are you trying to force me onto the train?" she exclaims.
"Oh, was it not your feet that ran you to the station? Was it not your feet that walked you the rest of the way to the train?
What game are you playing?
It's not a game, miss. I am the conductor. Surely you will find me conducting conductor business, as it is my job. I am but a humble guide. Ryan starts thinking about all the interactions she's had with the conductor.
What are you guiding?
Ryan asks. The conductor looks around at the empty train station. Currently, I'm guiding you.
I don't want to go on the train.
Are you certain? Your words and your heart are in contradiction. Where would you like to go? Ryan wipes tears and snot from her face.
What do you know of my heart?
You're angry because you're scared. And you're scared of your parents fighting. You're scared of what others think of you. You're scared of screwing things up. And because of this, you put up walls as tall as they are wide to protect yourself from the pain of disappointment and shame. You've carried these burdens deep within yourself, and they've morphed into self-loathing and...
Enough!
Ryan shouts. The conductor bows gently before Ryan. Ryan boils inside, wanting to scream, but it wouldn't do her any good here. She thinks of Bea, Leslie, and Sebastian. She thinks of Sebastian's smile, the way Leslie uses his words of such beauty, and the way Bea loves everyone. A smile crosses Ryan's face.
I think I get it now. Will you change your face back to a smile?
The conductor's frown immediately flips into the same unnatural smile from before.
Guide me to the nearest worm,
Ryan says. 13. Ryan collects several stanchion ropes from the train station, and Daisy chains them together into a much longer, heavier rope. She also pulls lanterns from the train cars and piles them together in a short alleyway, creating a singular, large light. Finally, she draws some curtains and cloth from nearby buildings and covers the lantern heap. She calls out to the conductor from her hideaway.
Conductor, would you please assist me?
The conductor nods eagerly and walks over to Ryan's trap. Ryan points to the sky at the worm that the conductor had pointed out. Like before, dozens of large fireflies carrying the worm. Each firefly has a rope tied to its abdomen and wrapped tightly around the chunky but colorful bobbit worm.
My plan is to imitate firefly butt lights in a way that should bring the fireflies down to investigate. When they get close, I'll latch onto it with the stanchion ropes.
The conductor sits quietly.
I want you to help me flap this cloth over the lanterns to flash the lights.
The conductor remains quiet. Ryan lifts an edge of the cloth and hands it up to him.
Will you please hold this cloth and flap it when I say?
The conductor nods and grabs hold of the fabric.
I guess he just likes good manners.
Ryan goes to her side of the cloth and picks up the corner.
Okay, flap! Flap!
But the conductor doesn't move.
Please flap, conductor! Please flap!
Ryan urges. The conductor springs into motion, flapping the cloth rhythmically and with great enthusiasm. The fabric covers and uncovers the lanterns in a subsequential pattern that mirrors firefly butts. Far off in the distance, the fireflies take notice, briefly pausing mid-air before turning downward toward Ryan and the conductor.
It's working! Please keep flapping, conductor!
The closer the bugs get, the faster the two of them shake the cloth. The bugs have begun to descend upon the train station alleyway until the flutter of wings fills the air. At first, the wings sound like a gentle hum, but as they get closer, it becomes a low rumble and then a deafening roar. Within a few minutes, the beat of their wings spins up dirt and loose debris in the train station. The worm wriggles violently as they near the ground, snapping large mandibles angrily. Ryan shouts over the noise of the bugs.
Keep flapping! I'm going to hook them up! Ryan rushes forward with the stanchion rope, heading straight for the lowest point of the worm. Its bare belly hangs low, wrapped with tons of braided rope, stretching tightly below it. Ryan pushes up some jiggly worm flesh and slides her own rope through the several loops of the firefly rope. Using the brass clamps from the stanchion ropes, she locks her loop shut and tugs it to ensure its sturdiness. At this moment, the worm begins to lift into the air, pulling the rope out of her hands. She looks to the lantern pile, but the conductor is gone from it and nowhere to be found. "Ugh!" she shouts in frustration. "Conductor!" The end of the rope begins to lift into the air as well. Ryan grabs it and fights to stay grounded, but she's no match for hundreds of flapping wings. She's soon lifted off the ground and ropes swing her across the train station toward the train. She braces for impact, with bent knees as she kicks off the train car side just below the window and flies back toward the alleyway. Then she gets an idea. Perhaps I can latch the rope to the train before the bugs get too high? She kicks her feet as she swings past the alleyway back toward the train again, this time a bit higher and faster. As she nears the train window, she drops her shoulder. This is going to hurt. Glass shatters, sending chunks and shards in every direction as Ryan crashes through the train car window. The rope pulls tight as it curls around the frame of the window and slams Ryan into the roof and then to the ground. But she doesn't have time to hurt now. Quickly she stands to her feet, wraps the rope around the nearest seat leg, and latches it tight. The rope pulls tight, jerking the cabin as the fireflies struggle against the rope. Then the train whistle blows. The engine begins to chug along as steel wheels set into motion along the tracks. "Conductor, what are you doing?" Ryan yells. The conductor's voice crackles over the intercom as he speaks. "Thank you for choosing to ride the last train out of the halfway inn. Next stop, the after." Ryan cries out, "No, I don't want to go." But it's no use. The train continues along the tracks, pulling the worm, the fireflies, and Ryan with it. As the train pulls away from the station, Ryan sees her friends Sebastian, Leslie, Bee, and Lozenge sprinting after the train. "Ryan, please don't go. I promise we're not mad at you," Bee screams. Ryan sticks her head out the window. "I'm sorry. I messed things up. I promise I'm going to fix it." "Where are you going?" "I'm getting us an orb. Wait for me." "If I can get to the orb, I can just jump off the train." Ryan grabs hold of the rope and climbs to the edge of the window. The train is beginning to speed up. A gust of wind sends her hair flying behind her as she pulls herself out of the train and begins to climb the rope up to the worm. The worm flails viciously as the train pulls it through the air like a meat kite. Ryan looks ahead of the train where a bright light glows warmly to her. The nearer it gets, the more she wants to let go. "My friends need me." Ryan snaps out of it. The last bit of land sails past as the train nears the light. "Guess I won't be jumping off the train." Ryan looks back at the worm as it thrashes in its bondage, and then at the nearing light. "She said the fastest way was through its mouth." Ryan looks at the mandibles crashing together like two clapping hands. "I stay on the train, I'll die. It eats me, I'll die." Ryan takes a deep breath, exhales, and then climbs the ropes as fast as possible, heading toward the worm's mouth. As she gets nearer to the chomping pincers, she notices that they extend away from the mouth far enough that she might be able to sneak inside its mouth without having to navigate the pincers. But the worm is thrashing about. "One wrong move, and I'm worm food. But perhaps..." Ryan pulls one of the ropes back like a rubber band and lets it snap against the worm's bare stomach fat. The worm squeals loudly, rearing its head back and opening its mandibles wide. With this opening, she climbs right into its open mouth without much resistance. That's when she sees it. The pearl. Deep inside the worm, there is a purplish glow, like the mountain below the halfway inn. But she also notices that the white light has made the worm nearly see-through. As the light continues to grow in intensity, she frantically crawls through the worm's stomach towards the pearl. Though muffled, Ryan hears a familiar voice call out below inside the train. "We are nearing the after now. Brace yourselves as we cross over." Ryan's heart pounds loudly as she panics, crawling faster and faster through the worm to the pearl. The light is so bright now that she can see the train below through the worm's flesh. Her hands brush against the pearl as she shouts one last thing. 14. "I wish my friends and I were safe in Vicar Vicioso's castle." The pearl shatters, and the worm falls limp as the entire team teleports to a large room deep within the mountain. Leslie grabs Ryan and throws her into a tight hug. Everyone else grabs hold of her and joins in the hug. Ryan stumbles over her words. You're not mad at me?" "Of course not. It was an honest mistake," Leslie corrects. "And besides, Sebastian hasn't stopped talking about being able to talk since then."
This is very true. I am overjoyed to be able to speak so clearly to all. Kaboom was fun, but the intricacies of the human communication serve me much better in my endeavors," Sebastian says enthusiastically. Ryan's eyes roll. "You've been spending way too much time with Leslie." "It's been awful, Ryan. I have no idea what he's saying anymore," Bea reports. Sebastian shrugs. "I can return to my prior speech patterns at once if you prefer, though I do enjoy this newfound freedom of speech."
"Dear gentlemen, this manner of speaking is sufficient for the scholarly, but your friends would prefer it if you spoke like a third grader again." The group looks around at their new surroundings. "Where are we?" Bea asks. "I wished for us to end up at the Vicar's castle," Ryan answers. The room's edges match the icy blue of the mountain, as Ryan had seen earlier on the train ride here. Above them, they notice a large girl of sorts, suspended in the air with webs and chains. She appears to be carved delicately from wood. In the center of her wooden chest, a prominent pink rock throbs like a heartbeat. Each pump of the heart hums and arcs blinding red light into the room, making everything strobe between crimson and pink every few seconds. The girl's head hangs limply by her chest, letting artificial blonde hair fall around her face and left shoulder. Her mouth seems to move, but no sound is coming out. Between the pulsing hums of the heart comes the sound of sobbing. Bea's ears are the first to catch it. It's coming from a man curled in the corner of the room. "Are you okay?" Bea asks. His form is difficult to distinguish as the flashing heart is gravely disorienting. Ryan's eyes adjust slightly to the flickering. "That's Vicioso?" The sobbing man stops crying and turns upright.
"I hate that name."
The man stands up and a long, flowing mantle of black tar stretches behind him, much like Sheol. The man looks worn out. His facial features are sagging with age, though he can't be more than 30 years old. His body struggles with every step, as if his joints are in constant pain. He wears a relatively modern military dress uniform. Dozens of colorful medals cling to his left breast pocket, denoting years of faithful military service and several campaigns into war-infested countries. The man walks closer to the group. Leslie pulls his sword. Lozenge hands Ryan a pair of scissors. Bea readies a new makeshift spear made from broken scissors. Ryan's eyes are drawn to it. "What's that?" "Leslie made it for me when you were having your meltdown." Bea grins. "It wasn't a meltdown." "Sebastian says teenagers are glum, and he hopes that I don't get like that when I'm your age." Ryan glares at Sebastian, who tries to hide behind his massive mustache and three-pointed hat with a nervous laughter. Vicar Vicioso continues to step forward and points upward. "They call me Vicar Vicioso first,
I hate it.
You're the bad guy. Why would we care what you like and dislike? Ryan interrupts.
You girl, what's your name?
Ryan points to herself. Me? Or do you mean B?
Vicar Vicioso nods. Yes, you, the moody teenager.
I'm not moody,
Ryan yells.
Vicar Vicioso blinks wildly at her snappiness.
Name?
Ryan.
That's a boy's name.
Vicar Vicioso shuffles about, walking in a few loose circles. Ryan's face grows red with anger, and she whispers under her breath. It's not.
Ryan, let me ask you a question. What is a bad guy, as you described just a minute ago?
His question takes Ryan aback. What do you mean? You're the bad guy.
What makes me the bad guy?
You have an army of scissormen rampaging through the halfway inn, trying to chase us down and steal our pink strings. You've hurt people. You're destroying buildings and homes. You're the villain.
Have you not done some of those same things?
Ryan hangs her head in shame as she thinks back to all the chaos and destruction they've caused since they've got here.
Tell me, Ryan, did the conductor tell you that you could go home?
Vicar Vicioso continues. Ryan nods.
He told me I could go home too.
But you can't. You're dead, B shouts.
Ah, yes, the young one. I've heard a lot about your spunk. Tell me, Beatris, do you know all the secrets of this world?
B also hangs her head in shame. No, I guess I don't really know much about this place. Vicar Vicioso walks a few steps in front of the group, just out of range of their weapons.
I have a daughter I'd never met. She was born while I was deployed, fighting my nation's wars.
Vicioso, tender-hearted father. The sun has gone down over the battlefield. The sun has gone down over the battlefield. The sounds of distant machine gun fire and explosions thunder through the night sky, and the crackle of a satellite phone pops inside a makeshift tent. Snow begins to fall heavily on the military position dug into the side of a mountain. Can I say hi to Daddy? A female voice calls over the static. Cooing baby noises comes through the speaker as a man in military fatigues listens on. She's such a happy baby. Say, we miss you, Daddy. The female voice calls again. The man remains quiet, soaking in all the sounds of a life he's missed since the war started. Across his breast pocket, stitched in black letters, is the name, Vincent. You okay, babe? The woman calls out.
Yeah, I just miss you guys. I'm ready to come home. Captain says we might get some R&R time soon, and we'll come home for a bit.
The man's voice is stern. War has changed him. He's a shell of a man he used to be. Another military man busts into the tent. Hey, Captain says it's time to hang it up. We've got a shift in 30 mics.
Hey, I gotta go. We've got a shift change in a bit, so it's going to be a long, cold one. I love you. Tell baby girl I love her too.
The woman on the phone replies, but he can't hear the sadness in her voice. I love you. Be safe tonight.
Always am.
The phone hangs up and the military man joins his squad by the sandbag fortifications. Another military man, the captain, steps forward.
Look, I know it's been quiet out here lately, but that doesn't mean we can sleep through the night. I need you to stay awake, stay vigilant, and stay alive. It's during times of quiet that we get the most complacent. Don't. Tracking?
The men speak in unison.
Aye, sir. All right, Vincent, you and Sheila get the motor oil from the Humvee at the base of the mountain and bring it up. We're going to need it tonight to stay warm.
Both men nod and start heading northeast of the encampment, down the mountain trail toward a handful of parked military trucks. Vincent is part of the United States Expedition Forces, while Sheila is a troop from Germany. In vastly different winter camo, both men are part of the joint forces holding down this mountain.
Sheila, have your family send us up some of those bratwursts you're always talking about. I've been dying to try it, Vincent says, slapping the German on the shoulder.
This is not possible. Do you see a post office? Sheila jokes. Wieners would be rotten by the time they get them to us.
It's colder than your mother's refrigerator out here. I'm sure they'd arrive just fine.
The men joke and pick on each other as they reach the motor pool. Sheila lifts the rear hatch and pulls out 2 green jerry cans full of used motor oil. Vincent shuts the Humvee hatch behind him.
I hate the way this stuff smells when we burn it, Vincent complains.
Yes, but you like to stay warm and alive, yeah? Sheila replies. A rocket careens toward the 2 soldiers, hitting the truck next to them and exploding. Both soldiers are hurled through the dark into a ravine. Fire and smoke fill the sky, as well as the sound of close machine gun fire. Vincent tries to sit himself up in the ditch, but the pain in his chest is unbearable. Vincent immediately grabs for the radio to call to help, but the explosion has disabled his radio.
Sheila, can you call for help? My radio was busted, Vincent yells into the darkness.
But there is no answer. Vincent's eyes adjust to the dark a bit, but he sees his partner lying not far from him. Sheila, are you good? Nothing. Vincent forces himself to crawl low over the rocks toward Sheila, each stone brushing his ribs, sending shooting pain over his body like convulsive lightning bolts. When he reaches the German, you notice he's drenched from head to toe in motor oil from the cans, but he's gone. Vincent sighs, reaching for Sheila's radio, but his is also broken, melted from the heat. The pain from his ribs shocks him with every breath. They'll find us, bud. They'll find us. Vincent rolls to his back, staring up at the snow falling. The sounds of gunfire fade in his ears, and he swears for a moment he can hear each snowflake. As his vision starts to fade, he pulls out a photograph of his wife and newborn baby girl, glancing at it one last time before he drifts off.
They'll find us and bring us home.
15. Did they find you? Bea asks with tears glazing her eyes.
Perhaps, eventually. I don't really know. Next thing I knew, I met the conductor and rode the train here, Vicar answers.
Bea starts sobbing. And so all this time you just wanted to go home and meet your little girl? Vicar Vicioso nods. As I said, I've never met her. I don't even know what she looks like. Though obviously, I hope she looks like her mother. Sebastian begins to tear up and begs Leslie for a hug. Leslie pushes him away initially, but lets the small man hug around his waist like a child.
I only briefly had a pink string, so I was never really given the opportunity to come back to life. But I saw countless others come through the train station still so full of life and hope. I burned with jealousy and rage, wishing there was some way I could go home and see her just once. I thought maybe I could borrow a string from a little while, but no one would lend me theirs, so I tried taking the string. And then you became the bad guy, Ryan says. Vicioso nods again. So what's with this horrid mechanician hanging above us? After seeing the disgust in the eyes of others when I tried to borrow their string, I couldn't live with myself. I hid myself away down here and tried to create my daughter from my own 2 hands. I am no craftsman, and none would help me once I made a name for myself. Something doesn't sit right with Ryan about the story, and she lets her mind be known. This doesn't make sense. This is quite the sob story you're telling us. You're supposedly remorseful and repentant, yet you've continued to pursue us with your scissormen and commanders like this entire time, Ryan says angrily.
Bee and the others gasp loudly at Ryan's sass. "Ryan, leave this poor man alone," Leslie interjects. Ryan lifts a hand to silence him. "No, if he were truly repentant, he would stop. Remember why we're here. He oppressed the halfway in since he got here." The others begin to think and murmur among themselves. "She is right," Vicioso says with a frown. "I am disgusted with myself. I was once a hero, and I've become the villain. But you must understand that this is all necessary evil because I will see my daughter. You cord bearers will relinquish your string, willingly or by force." "You don't have to do this, though. She will eventually come through the halfway in if you just have patience," Bee shouts. "You want me to see her when the world had its way with her? When it has destroyed her hopes and dreams? When it has chewed her up and she's lived a lifetime of pain? Nonsense! I will see her tonight!" Vicar Vicioso shouts as he disappears, and the girl strapped to the ceiling begins to fall. The crew jumps out of the way as the doll crashes into the ground where they once stood. Its joints crackle as it slowly raises up on its forearms. Its head cocks to the side, revealing orange, glowing eyes beneath its patchy hair. Its lips continue to move, but nothing comes out but chattering of bones. Then it lunges forward, dragging its hind legs behind it. Everyone leaps out of the way as it continues forward, crashing into the wall and cutting a sharp angle back toward them. "Guys, what are we going to do about this thing?" Ryan shouts, running from the beast as fast as she can.
Kaboom?
Sebastian asks. "Please do," Bee shouts as it skitters across the floor towards her. Sebastian digs into his uniform, pulls out several sticks of dynamite and drags the fuses across his fire wick. They light, sending sparks across his wool uniform. With a grunt, he flings them all toward the doll. Kaboom! Fire billows out of the sticks, sending smoke plumes that choke up the team, but the doll doesn't emerge from the fumes. Leslie yells across the massive room, "Nicely done!" Ryan's voice echoes from the other side of the room. "Did you get her?" "No sign of her over here," Bee shouts. An awful sound of nails on a chalkboard comes from the firestorm in the center of the room. A metallic hand with burning wood reaches from the flames and digs long steel claws into the ground around it, bringing up chunks of broken rock and dust. The doll drags itself from the fire slowly and methodically, shedding its charred wooden body and revealing the metal skeleton underneath.
"Good gracious! I regret that decision," Sebastian says, putting a hand to his mouth.
With its wooden body completely removed, the figure gets to its feet. Its hair has been burned off, revealing a genderless amalgamation of steel and extraordinary engineering. The doll stumbles forward, clacking metal feet against the stone as it charges towards Leslie. Leslie, tired of running, stands with his sword ready. The puppet lunges, reaching for him with clawed hands, but he parries each grab. Lozenge latches on to the doll's right foot, dragging her backwards. She falls to a knee before kicking the rabbit like an angry horse. Lozenge smacks against the far wall with a squeak. "Our weapons aren't going to do anything against metal," Ryan shouts. The doll turns her head towards Ryan's voice, eyes glowing dangerously orange. Ryan gulps loudly. The doll stands back up and turns towards Ryan.
Girl,
the doll chatters. Leslie swings a sword against the doll's steel frame, sparks flying. "It's me you want! Come and fight me!" The massive humanoid lazily swipes a hand at Leslie, sending him flying just like Lozenge. However, there was no squeak from Leslie. Ryan takes off running, with the steel beast closing the distance quickly. "Guys, help me!" Ryan screams between labored breaths. Bee jumps between them with her spear held firmly in front of her. The puppet slides to a halt before Bee and stares down at her. "Leave my friends alone! I'm not going to ask twice!" Bee stands ready for battle. Perhaps my sass is wearing off on her? The puppet kneels to examine Bee closer.
Girl?
Ryan stops running and turns to watch. The doll reaches for Bee, but Bee pokes its hand with the spear. The doll grabs the spear by the tip and pulls Bee up with it until she's kicking her feet wildly. Then, with a gentle hand, it grabs Bee like a burrito. Bee screams. Ryan rushes forward. Crash! A turbo tortoise smashes through the stone wall of the car's throne room and smashes into the robot at high speed. Bee goes airborne. The robot and tortoise crash into the wall with a sputter of flash arcs and flame. Lozenge rushes and catches Bee while soldiers pour into the room with an assortment of weapons that span several thousand years of human history. A Russian woman in coveralls crawls from the top of the wrecked tortoise.
You made me wreck 2 turtles today, Vicioso.
Valentina? Bee asks. We saw you die.
It was a sizable kaboom,
Sebastian says. Valentina pulls a worm pearl from her pocket.
Vicioso isn't the only one with pearls.
Suddenly, a fist comes flying out of nowhere and strikes Valentina in the cheek. Valentina falls off the edge of the tortoise scaffolding and hits the floor below. The pearl goes up into the air as Vicioso steps out from the shadows and catches it.
Things just got a little more interesting. Let's even the odds, shall we?
I wish for a battalion of scissormen in this room with us, Vicioso says. The pearl shatters and countless scissormen appear on the room's outer edge. Gunfire erupts as Valentina's troops and scissormen clash in the center. Vicioso pulls another pearl from his pocket and makes a second wish. I wish for my sword. The second pearl shatters, and a long, curved scissor half appears in his hand. With his weapon ready, he leaps from the side of the tortoise and joins in the fight, taking on several soldiers in the impressive show of power and technique. Men are thrown from the battlefield with every swipe, turning to dust before hitting the ground.
It would behoove us to restrain his arms from using the pearls,
Sebastian calls out to the others. Ryan and the others join up, out of the way of the battle happening all around them. Can you still use a pearl if it's in your pocket, though? Ryan asks. Leslie shrugs. I was under the impression that someone must have it in their bare hand. Okay, so beat him up and tie his hands? Bee asks. That's as good as a plan as any, Leslie answers. They look at Vicioso hacking through Valentina's forces effortlessly. Ryan rubs her forehead. I thought for sure he was a weak old man the way he was walking earlier. I'm getting tired of this fighting.
Perhaps the pearls are keeping him nimble,
Sebastian says. Leslie chuckles. Just think, Ryan. This time tomorrow you'll be home. Ryan laughs nervously. Yeah, maybe. What's the plan then? Bee asks.
We could blitzkrieg him all at once,
Sebastian suggests. Dozens of Valentina's men go flying with the synchronized scream. Sebastian lifts his hat and runs his fingers through his hair.
Okay, that's not the best idea, I suppose.
What if we snuck up behind him and stole his pearls? Ryan asks. The group mulls it over in their heads silently for a moment. Leslie is the first to break the silence. Do you have a plan, young tactician? Perhaps, but it might just kill us. Sebastian's smile creases his face once more.
Wouldn't it be the first time?
Ryan whispers the plan to the group, and everyone falls into their places. Vicar Vicioso shakes the dust from his sword as he sees Lozenge bulldozing through the crowd toward him. He chuckles to himself. Come, little rabbit, I can multiply you faster with my sword than your kind can multiply themselves, Vicioso challenges. Fighters dodge out of the way as the hulking stuffed warrior stampedes through. Vicioso pulls back his sword for a horizontal slash. Lozenge makes no effort to stop. Vicioso begins his swing, heaving the thin-bladed sword swiftly through the air. Lozenge doesn't stop charging. He's going to be cut in two. Sebastian is the first to leap from behind the rabbit's back, slinging flash powder into the air around Vicar. Vicioso grunts in pain as the powder temporarily blinds his vision, but the sword continues through the air. Leslie kicks up over the top of Lozenge and brings the sword down, parrying the attack as it draws near. Clash! The two metals clank loudly against each other. Lozenge grabs the falling Sebastian and Leslie and continues plowing through, dropping a shoulder just as they collide into Vicioso. Vicioso skids several feet across the floor, digging his sword into the ground like an emergency brake, but Vicioso doesn't look behind him, so he trips over Ryan sitting on her hands and knees and falls backward onto the ground. His sword skids away from reach.
What kind of playground antics are you trying to pull?
He shouts as he attempts to climb to his feet. He gets to his knees before a swift kick to the liver sends him to a fetal position. The kicker, Valentina.
I owed you that much.
Bee appears on the scaffolding of the tortoise just above Vicioso and screams with the cry of 1,000 Valkyries as she cannonballs from the rails and hits him in the stomach. Vicioso screams in pain and flails on the ground like a fish out of water. In his thrashing, he reaches for his pockets. Leslie, Lozenge, and Sebastian rush forward to restrain his hands. Pearls get scattered all around the floor, but Vicioso breaks free and disappears once more. Where did he go? Ryan shouts. Grab the pearls! We can follow him! Leslie says, shoveling a couple of pearls into his hands. Sebastian grabs one.
I wish my friends and I were all with Vicar Vicioso, wherever he is.
The pearl pops, and Leslie, Sebastian, Lozenge, Bee, and Ryan teleport to the wasteland, where they find Vicioso limping away. I wish Vicioso's shoes were made of concrete, Leslie calls out. Vicioso crashes into the dirt with a poof of dust. The others close in on him as he stalls. Vicioso strips off his boots and picks himself back up to start running again.
Dearest rabbit, be a gentleman and throw me, would you?
Sebastian asks.
Throwing,
Lozenge says, picking up the dwarf and throwing him like a football. Sebastian spirals through the air and tackles Vicioso to the ground. The others dogpile onto the old man, throwing hands and fists to try to restrain him. Vicioso manages to squeeze out another pearl.
I wish I was with my army in the halfway inn.
They all teleport to the town center, which is swarming with scissormen.
Help me, you fools!
Vicioso yells as the scissormen spring into action. Hey! We went with him this time! Bee shouts as Vicioso tries to break free. Scissormen leap on the pile of people and begin hacking and stabbing with scissors. Ryan gets cut badly across the arm, causing her to scream in pain. Lozenge, defend us! Lozenge leaps from the dog pile and grabs the first scissorman he sees. Then, using him like a club, he starts bashing other scissormen. Ryan hisses at the pain in her arm but keeps a grip on Vicioso. Maybe it sent us with them because we were touching him? How many pearls do we have left? Sebastian throws up the hand signal for 0. Leslie pulls a pearl free and hands it to her. This is my last one! Make it count, dear! I've got one too, Bee replies. Okay, this might just work in our favor. I wish we were aboard the train, Ryan says. Poof. The dog pile, minus Lozenge, teleports to the train. Within seconds, the train horn sounds and the engine roars to life. The conductor's voice crackles over the intercom as he speaks. Thank you for choosing to ride the last train out of the halfway inn. Next stop, the after. The train chugs along, gathering speed. Vicioso struggles intensely under the weight of the group.
Let me go! I'm not going to the other side! I'm not ready!
He screams and shouts, but the others hold tightly as the light gets brighter.
Ryan,
Sebastian asks. Yes, Sebastian?
We're not getting off this train, are we?
Only Bee is. You guessed correctly. Leslie's head bows low. This was the most fun I've had in my entire life.
It was quite the experience. Even better now that I can speak the same language as you all, Sebastian chuckles.
Ryan smiles. Me too, Leslie. I'm so glad I got to meet you all. But Bee is not her usual self, and Ryan notices. "What's wrong, Bee?" Bee holds up her wrist, and the pink cord is gone. The others gasp loudly. "Oh no, Bee! When?" Ryan asks in a panic. Bee shrugs. "I'm not sure. Might have been when the scissorman pounced on us a second ago. Maybe it's been gone for a while, and I just never noticed." Ryan looks at her string. It's barely hanging on by a thread. "I don't deserve to take your place, Bee," Ryan says with a frown. "You love life, and I tried to throw mine away." The train gets quiet. The light gets brighter. Ryan feels sick to her stomach. Bee smiles. At first, her bottom lip quivers painfully, but then it steadies. "Do you think my dog that died will be over there in the after?" Leslie nods. "He sure will. He sure will. You can introduce him to Sebastian and me."
I love dogs.
Sebastian grins wildly. Ryan interrupts loudly. "What if Sebastian and Leslie hold him down, and we can wish Bee back?" Vicioso starts thrashing and nearly gets a hand free with the four of them holding him down. "It's all we can do to hold him down just for the four of us. Take your second chance at life as a blessing, Ryan. Fate has smiled upon you," Leslie responds. "We can dig in his pockets and pull the pearls out and then—"
I have no regrets,
Sebastian interrupts. Leslie laughs. "I've got a few, but this isn't one." "And I don't want to live in the halfway inn alone," Bee says.
These are the cards we've been dealt, Ryan. I'd die 100 deaths just to make sure you girls had a second chance at life, Sebastian says.
"Take this opportunity to grow. Find the beauty in the world above," Leslie says. Sebastian nods with a huge grin.
Find joy in the little things.
"But, most of all, learn to love yourself and others, Ryan," Bee says with tear-filled eyes. The conductor's voice comes over the intercom once more. "We are nearing the after now. Brace yourselves as we cross over." "Tell my mommy that I love her, and I'll wait for her," Bee says. "Wait! Don't go!" Ryan screams, hugging them all tightly. Bee nods. Leslie and Sebastian push their boots against Ryan's hips and kick her out of the dog pile. She slides a few feet away onto the train floor. She stumbles to crawl back to them, quickly reaching out to touch them. Bee holds up the pearl. "I wish Ryan was back at the train station." And poof, Ryan is gone. 16. Ryan collapses to the train station floor, sobbing as the train crosses into the after.
Ryan?
The big blue rabbit has snuck up behind her.
Where's Bee?
Ryan sniffles and wipes her face, ravaged with emotion. She's gone, buddy. She and the others went into the after." She turns back to look at him, but he's just a small, stuffed animal again. She picks him up again as the train pulls up to the station with squealing brakes. Ryan's heart races with excitement. "Wait, maybe they came back." The train comes to a complete stop and the doors open. But only the conductor steps out, and Ryan's heart drops. "Miss, I must thank you for handling that little problem of mine," the conductor says with that huge, unnatural grin on his face. "My friends are gone, and he acts like nothing happened." Ryan's anger boils, and she's about to give him a piece of her mind. But then she looks down at Tiny Lozenge, takes a deep breath, and releases that anger. They sacrificed so she can do and be better. "Yes, Mr. Conductor, we're ready to go." With this answer, the conductor snaps his fingers, and one of the train cars towards the back opens, revealing a large cocoon. He guides Ryan over to it. They stand there watching as their feet tear at the cocoon's edges. With a few presses, the feet eventually pop out, and press against the sides of the hole. There's some shuffling inside, and then a blue creature presses its back against the hole, tearing it wider. A long, cylindrical body pokes out of the top of the cocoon. Giant, cobalt wings unfurl from the body and flap powerfully, forcing a gust of wind with every flutter. Curly antennae unravel from in front of the butterfly's eyes as they begin to twitch in every direction, feeling its new environment. The conductor waves his hands toward the butterfly. All aboard the last butterfly to the land of the living. Next stop, your body. He helps Ryan climb aboard the butterfly's back. Please do hold tight, miss. I would hate for you to fall back to the halfway in. The wings begin to flap continuously, generating lift. Ryan wants to say some generous parting words to the conductor, but she really can't stand that guy, and doesn't look forward to seeing him again one day. The butterfly quickly lifts into the sky with its mighty wings and blasts straight through the firmament above the halfway in. The cool air from Derleth and Salem fills her lungs as the butterfly heads straight for the hospital, ducking under tree branches and diving through obstacles. Not far off, the hospital is in sight. The butterfly speeds up as it approaches an open window on the first floor of the hospital. Ryan and the butterfly land on the windowsill of the hospital room. Inside, Ryan sees her body lying there quietly, full of tubes and wires. Ryan climbs down from the butterfly, but she's tiny now, and her hospital body is enormous. What do I do now, Lozenge? She asks the rabbit. He doesn't talk anymore, but his tiny hand falls, pointing to the floor. Ryan looks down and gets dizzy. The floor is much further away than she remembers. She looks back at the butterfly. Its antennae are moving 100 miles an hour. Its front legs stomp the ground. Are you telling me to jump? The butterfly appears to nod. I'm absolutely out of my mind, Ryan says with a sigh. Then she jumps. 17. My parents said I was in a coma for 7 days. Imagine my shock when they hugged and kissed me when I woke up. I thought for sure I was going to be scolded, Ryan says to Bee's mom beside Bee's grave. Parents love their children, even if they don't always know how to say it, dear, Bee's mom answers. Ryan chuckles. Well, I know that now. The two ladies get quiet for a moment. Bee's mom is the first to speak. Say, is that lozenge there under your arm? Ryan looks under and remembers the blue rabbit. Yes, it is. My parents said it just showed up the day before I woke up from the coma. Do you want him back? Ryan hands her the rabbit, and Bee's mom takes it into her hands. She draws her hands across his features, feeling each and every stitch. Then she smells it. Seems like an odd thing to do, doesn't it? Were you in room 0906 by chance? Ryan looks confused. What do you mean? In the hospital, was your room number 0906? Yes, I think so. Why? Bee's mother hands her back the rabbit. Bee was in the room next to you. I think Bee knew you'd need him more than her. Keep it. He kept you girls safe during your little adventure, and I think he can keep you safe until you bring him back to her. Ryan reluctantly takes the rabbit. It feels like a Band-Aid has been torn off the wound again, and she starts weeping. Bee's mother pulls her in for a hug, and they cry together for a while. Tears turn into sniffles, and the two finally sit back in their chairs. Ryan hands her the jar with the butterfly. I brought you this. I just wanted to prove to you I'm not crazy, that it really happened. I think. Oh. Is this the one that flew you home? Ryan nods silently. Bee's mother takes the jar and stares at the beautiful creature with twitching antennae and stamping feet. I believe you. Ryan exhales a sigh of relief. But I think we should let it go. Ryan nods. I think Bee would agree. Bee's mother unfastens the lid on the jar. The cool air rushes into the jar, infusing the butterfly with energy. With the flutter of its wings, it escapes the jar. Where is it headed, you ask? On its way to inspire the next generation of adventurers. Perhaps you know them already. End. You have been listening to The Halfway Inn, written by Sean Guzman, narrated by Samuel Myers. Copyright 2025 by Sean Guzman. Production copyright 2026 by Samuel Myers. All rights reserved.